What's going on, guys? To episode 591 of AskGSM here today for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well here for another all-new star-studded Q&A video, answering all your questions from YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever, and Facebook. If you want to send in a question to the show to be answered either live on the air or in next week's episode, whatever it might be, depending on when you're watching this, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine and on X, of course, at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/facebook.com. I just said that, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And also, last but not least, if you're watching this video after the fact, you can include your question in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. But if you are watching live, a couple things to keep in mind here. First of all, if you're here in the chat, thank you for joining us. I'll get to the chat in just a moment. Be sure to like the video. I would very much appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I'm sure by this point you probably already have, but if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell button to be notified every single time we upload a new video and every single time we go live here on the channel, which is typically Tuesdays for hashtag AskGSM, Thursdays for WrestleRant Radio, and the occasional live stream. You never really know what you might get. So, for example, over the weekend, we did a, not really a surprise stream because they did advertise it in advance, but Alexis and I did a test run gameplay video of WWE 2K25. Now, it did, of course, crash at one point. Halfway through, and we did a part 2. So if you missed that, go back and check that out from over the weekend. Really enjoying the game so far. Probably going to do more gameplay in 2K25 starting next week in GM mode. I'm just now wrapping up the GM mode in 2K24. Going to do GM mode in 2K25, possibly live, and it might be live next Wednesday. In the first week of, that's going to be April, which is crazy that we're already at April and here in 2025. So keep an eye out for that. But even before then, though, in addition to the usual streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, what I might do either this Friday or this Saturday, I'm still not quite sure yet, might go live for a watch-along of either, I was thinking WrestleMania 36, I think I said that about a week ago, WrestleMania 36 watch-along I feel like would be a lot of fun, but this weekend actually marks 15 years to the day, specifically this Friday, of WrestleMania 26, the first WrestleMania I had watched in its entirety as a fan. Now, I did watch WrestleMania 25 as a fan. Not live, though. I actually got that on DVD months later for my birthday. I did not watch that show live. I was actually grounded for that show. And I started watching wrestling full-time in April of 2008, right after WrestleMania 24. So the first Mania I actually watched live was 26, 15 years ago. It's a good show, worth revisiting. Of course, the main event, that being Shawn Michaels and Undertaker Part 2 at Mania, Streak versus Career. Such a great show. So we might be doing a watch-along of that this weekend, either Friday or Saturday, maybe Sunday, but probably Friday or Saturday. SmackDown, of course, airs at 8 in its usual time slot, as it airs here in the United States, but you can watch it early at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So either while SmackDown is airing internationally, which I like to watch live, probably after that's over, airing internationally, in the time slot in which SmackDown typically airs here in the States, might be doing a live stream. So keep an eye out for that. Looking forward to that. But like I said, a lot of other content coming here to the channel. So if you haven't already subscribed, I would greatly appreciate it. Please do that. And of course, buy a shirt, support the show, support the brand. Richie just did that last week. Be a Richie. He's a great dude. Follow in Richie's footsteps. Buying a t-shirt today. ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. We got a Christmas design, a Halloween design, and just a regular WrestleRant design. And hopefully at some point, if Tyreek would show his face, he can give us the clearance for a Love Ziggler design, which we might actually end up doing anyway. Maybe the reason why WrestleMania's build this year feels so cold is because we don't have enough Love Ziggler. Maybe that's why. Maybe we just don't have enough Love Ziggler on the road to WrestleMania. If you don't understand that reference, go back and check any of the other previous live streams, and you would understand exactly what I'm talking about. But hopefully Tyreek is here. He shows his face, and we could talk some Love Ziggler and whatever the fuck else. So let's get here to the chat in just a moment. Daniel joining us earlier with the glasses emoji. Alexis, of course, here as always saying, starting off my lunch right. Dylan also here. Dylan chats in. Dylan, thanks for joining per usual. He said, and yes, Daniel, I agree. Love Ziggler merch for sure. And Dylan also said that as well. So Daniel said Dylan coming in hot. Dylan said his first chat of the stream. He said the last 2 Raws were so ass. Literally, they copy and pasted it. The Cena promo went on the same. Rhea's story played out the same, and the Jay, he later corrected himself, the Jay and Gunther build sucks monkey balls. We need some explanation. I don't completely disagree, and we'll get into why I feel that way and why I feel the road to WrestleMania has been lacking so far. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the road to WrestleMania has been fucking terrible. It's the most underwhelming road to WrestleMania of all time. We go through this every single year. I'm just going off of what I've seen in the last couple of months, and specifically the last couple of weeks during WWE's international tour. I really feel like a lot of this tour, for as fun as these crowds have been, feel phoned in. They feel very phoned in as far as them doing stuff just to appease the live crowd. Oh, we can sing along with Punk's song and we can sing along with the Seth Rollins song, but they're not doing enough to meaningfully progress these programs that should feel a lot bigger than they do. And I feel like we haven't had a real standout show from either Raw or SmackDown in the last couple of weeks, and that's not good. Now, WrestleMania is later this year, which might be part of the problem, but I'm saying that there's still plenty of time for them to correct course and to get back on the right track and get everyone, not just me, but everyone more excited for the show. I have no doubt Mania itself will be awesome. Like, you never really remember the build. Does anyone honestly remember the build to Mania 17? Does anyone honestly remember the build to the last couple of WrestleManias, aside from maybe last year with the pivoting shit? The answer is no. Like, I've gotten questions before about, was the build to this Mania better or worse than last year? No one remembers the build, usually. The build is important for helping sell tickets and pay-per-view buys and to get people looking forward to the show, but the build is important. Now, come Mania, that's all people will remember, and I do think Mania itself will deliver the same way that 40 did, and even 39 and 38 and even 37. I think the last couple of Manias have been good to great to amazing, anywhere in that category. I do not think this will be any different than those, but the build has left a lot to be desired. We'll get into that in a little bit to Dylan's point. Ahmed also joining us. He said, hey, Graham, like I said, I agree with the Love Ziggler merch. We're here for Love Ziggler. Hopefully Tyreek shows up at some point. Completely fucking no-sells as per usual. Drops in with this chat, mentioning something non-Love Ziggler related, and then leaves. That's his gimmick at this point. It's just... yeah, Richie is here as well. He says, we are so back. Richie, great to see you, my friend. Check out Richie's content. Clicking on the name on the YouTube stream. He does great 2K content and just content in general. He says, what's up, chat? What's up, Graham? Richie, hope you're doing well, dude. But yeah, Ahmed said earlier, he said, hey, Graham, just arrived back home to Minneapolis yesterday at 2 p.m. I'm still tired. I'm glad I got to join the stream. Ahmed, hope you're doing well, dude. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Ahmed did say previously, I think it was last week here on Hashtag, that he was in Africa, I believe. I think Kenya specifically, could be wrong there. I think it was Africa just in general. But he was in Africa for like a couple of months since like January, and he was feeling homesick, and now he's finally back. So home sweet home. Glad you're back on U.S. soil, Ahmed, and hope you're doing well. AJ also joining us. AJ Watson says, Braun Breaker being in more Raw main event matches than Gunther this year is criminal. He feels more like a world champion than Gunther does right now. You are not wrong, AJ. You are not wrong. The booking of Gunther as World Heavyweight Champion is very reminiscent. Not quite to the same extent. I will be fair here and not say quite as bad. But it feels a lot like when the World Heavyweight Champion was in the middle of the show, defending his championship at the beginning of the show. Like, we're not talking pay-per-views. We're talking fucking Raws and SmackDowns back in 2013, 2012. When the World Heavyweight Championship at that point was a glorified stepping stone, a glorified mid-card title. That is what it feels like to me currently. And I love Gunther's, I haven't loved his reign, but I think he's had a good run. But the booking has left a lot to be desired. He's had some good matches. But like, I feel like his IC championship run, I think he headlined more Raws, quite honestly. I think he headlined more Raws and SmackDown as Intercontinental Champion than he has so far as World Heavyweight Champion. Now, of course, that's a longer period to go off of because he was the Intercontinental Champion for a year and a fucking half, or almost 2 years, actually. Whereas with the World Heavyweight Championship, he's only been champion for the last, 6 months? But even still, though, he has hardly defended that championship in the main event of Raw or any pay-per-views at all. I don't think he's headlined any shows, aside from maybe Crown Jewel with Cody Rhodes. He didn't headline Survivor Series. He did headline the second Saturday night's main event, but not Royal Rumble, not Chamber. He really does feel like an afterthought in a lot of ways. And the booking of his feud with Jey Uso certainly has not helped. Daniel said, old Reek will be here, but probably ignore us again and act oblivious. It's the gimmick that will never end. Tyreek will show up. He will comment on something that we're talking about. Either just join in on the stream, drop a like, drop a comment. We're going to name drop him a million times and ask him about what the fuck he meant by Love Ziggler a couple of weeks ago. And then he will disappear into the night. Into thin air will Tyreek go. Just completely no selling. What we're all trying to get answers to, which at this point, honestly, at this point, I hope he doesn't answer us, just so we can keep this going on for as long as possible. Richie said, I'm glad that the stream just started. We had a fire drill test at my job, so we've been shivering outside for a hot minute. God damn, Richie, hope you're warming up. I mean, thankfully, it's warmer now than it has been, obviously, here in the Northeast in either February or January. It's been warmer recently, but like the last couple days, it's been closer to 40. Like, whereas a week ago, last Wednesday, it was like fucking 65 degrees. I mean, it is what it is. But Richie, hope you're doing well, and this is prime time for hashtag AskGSM, so I'm glad you could join us. Yeah, Ahmed was in Africa since January 11th, he says. That's crazy. That is nuts. That's a long time to be away. January 11th was actually the 32nd anniversary of the first episode of Raw. Don't ask me how I know that. Ahmed also said, Graham, it's weird. Joining the stream around 11 usually. When I was in Kenya, it was around 7 p.m. when I would join your streams. That's nuts. So he would be here, like, if you would join in around 7 p.m., then, well, you were saying it's 11 a.m. now, because I forgot your Central Time, so that makes sense. Minneapolis is Central Time. So 7 p.m., if we would typically go 3 hours, then we would be done here with you around 10 p.m. your time. That's crazy. Then if I'm doing the math correct, anytime that we would do, like, later streams, would it be like fucking 3 o'clock in the morning for you? Like 6 o'clock in the morning? That's crazy to think about. When I was in London for a couple of weeks a few years ago, I watched Raw live. I was there for probably a week and a half, but I was there for 2 Raws, and it was dreadful. I feel so bad. And I know people, like, they've been dealing with this their entire lives. But for anyone either joining us from England now or as whatever, I mean, I know a lot of people over in London that I've been mutual followers with and friends with, whatever, that watch Raw every week or used to watch Raw every week at the time that it would air, which is like fucking 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Anytime I would watch Raw when I was in London for that like week and a half a few years ago, it would start at 1 a.m. and I'm usually up around 1 a.m., but it would end at like 4. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. On a work week, too, on a fucking Monday? Like, that's crazy. God bless anyone that's, I mean, and they're definitely a faithful bunch over there, so I'm sure they're thrilled to have Raw there and SmackDown there in this coming week and have it start at a normal fucking time. And for us, it's cool. I mean, it airs here at 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is pretty awesome, so I appreciate that a lot as well. GCW555 also joining us. Great to see you, dude, in the chat. He said, hey, Graham/everyone. Richie said, spring hasn't sprung quite yet. It's just this crazy wind that's the issue. The issue is the wind. The wind is awful. The wind always makes it way colder than it actually is. We are getting closer to the springtime. I mean, it is officially spring, but it doesn't feel like spring quite yet, but it's a lot better than what it was even a month ago when it was fucking freezing. Millennial Noob joining us. Noob, what's going on, dude? He says, good morning, Graham. How you doing today? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, Noob. He says, it feels like Io Sky feels like a third wheel in this WrestleMania build to the triple threat. Kind of reminds me of how Asuka was booked when she was champion. Yeah, I mean, Asuka's, or rather Io's run has really only lasted a couple of weeks, but you're not wrong. I mean, Dylan called it last night when we were watching Raw. He goes, they're going to do the facepalm thing again, where like Rhea facepalms Io, and that's exactly what they fucking did. Now this time, like Io has stood tall a time or two. I think it was Rhea who stood tall last week. I think this week it was Bianca. So they're taking turns with who stands tall, but the build has been so fucking lazy. Like, it has been the same segment 3 weeks in a row, and none of them really come over overly likable. Io's an afterthought. Bianca hasn't really done anything wrong, but she's getting booed, which gives me hope that she will turn heel. I'm not confident on that front quite yet. I'm more confident now than I was even 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I'm still not quite confident yet they're headed in that direction. And then Rhea, like, she had this great character arc the night that she lost the championship a few weeks ago, talking about being desperate to get it back and losing all of her friends, and she was at this all-time low point, rock bottom in her life. And then she comes out the very next week, like, none of that ever happened. Like, unlikable and whiny and complaining, just bitching and whining, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know. The build of that match has certainly sucked. I completely agree. Average Grunt also joining us. He says, sup, folks. Grunt, what's going on, my man? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us as always. Got a great question from Grunt that we will get to a little bit later on that he sent in actually this morning on YouTube. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Ahmed said, Graham, I had to wake up at 4 a.m. for Raw. SmackDown, it's 3 a.m. due to daylight savings time. That's fucking awful to watch live. I mean, honestly, depending on your schedule, I would just watch it after the fact. I'm saying, fuck that. I'm just watching it when I can. Like when, and yeah, Richie, I saw the Tyreek summoning circle. I agree. We got to explain yourself. I agree. So like when Elimination Chamber aired, when it aired live here in the States when they were in Australia last year, it started like 5 a.m. I said, fuck that. If I don't have to watch it live, I'm not going to fucking watch it live. I waited until like 10, 11, 12, got some late breakfast, a brunch, whatever, watched the show with that at like 11. I'm not fucking getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's Elimination Chamber. It's not that big of a deal. Daniel also said crowd was dead for the women's trio last night. Yeah, I mean, you talking about for the Bianca, Io, Rhea segment? They were booing Bianca, I could tell you that. Because the segment sucked. I mean, they announced the match for next week. Why not just do that in a backstage promo? The only excuse as to why they did that was to get the women out in the ring. But then just do it in a backstage promo. But they wanted to kill as much time as possible. Last night felt like the prime time show for killing time. Like nothing meaningful really happened. And I thought the main event was great. I thought the El Grande Americano thing was funny. A lot of controversy surrounding that, actually. A lot of like racism implications, and I saw the Gulf of America. Honestly, I didn't see that when it happened. I saw it after the fact. I saw the vignette that they aired for Grande Americano, and then they called it Gulf of America in the fucking vignette, which I assume was on purpose. I mean, it's part of the character. A lot of MAGA implications going around right now. I mean, I wouldn't really look that much far into it. I don't want to really dive into that territory all that way. I mean, as far as like the implications there of that segment and the vignette and whatever. The fact that you may have used AI for it was pretty shitty. I mean, it's like, come on. Can you not just make a fucking good vignette? You really have to rely on AI now? Like, that's garbage. That shit's terrible. But anyway, I thought the overall character was funny, and those were really the only highlights of the show. I thought the Cena Cody promo was exactly what Dylan said. I said this last night, but it was a copy and paste of what we saw last week. Grunt said 5 to 10 degrees is my sweet spot. Anything over 20 is hell for me. Grunt, I know you're in Canada, so you're speaking the same language as everyone else in the world as far as Celsius. We here in America are stupid and go off of Fahrenheit, so I don't know what the equivalent of 5 to 10 to 20 is, but I would imagine it's like maybe 30 degrees here. I don't know what that is exactly. I would have to look it up. We're on Fahrenheit. The rest of the world has got the right idea with Celsius. It just makes way more sense. Ahmed said, I'm shocked there were Let's Go Lyra chants yesterday. I mean, she's Irish, right? I mean, they were in Scotland. I mean, they're in the UK. So it's, she got a better reaction last night than she normally does in the States. So I can't say I'm too shocked. And the match was fine. Not exactly a road to WrestleMania worthy match that really gets me overly excited about anything that we might see at WrestleMania with Bayley and Lyra and Liv and Raquel. Who gives a shit? It's like basic booking. There's no real story there. Bayley beat Lyra. It should be Bayley and Lyra for the IC Championship. But even if they do that, that to me is not a WrestleMania-worthy match. There's no fucking feud there. They've barely talked on TV. They had one WWE.com exclusive video a week ago. The real story that they seem to be setting up was Bayley and Roxanne. And then Roxanne hasn't been on Raw since Elimination Chamber. She's back in NXT, which is fine, probably until after WrestleMania. Then why the fuck would you start a story if you don't intend to wrap it up by WrestleMania? Just to go back to it after WrestleMania? It would be one thing if they were in a multi-women match at Mania, or it would be another thing if they were fighting at Stand and Deliver over Mania weekend. I had said that from the get-go. There was no fucking chance that those two were ever going to have a match at WrestleMania. We'd be lucky if we even get Jade and Naomi at WrestleMania. Because as I've said before, and this never really gets pointed out enough, we have never had a regular women's match at Mania that was not for a championship, that did not have a bullshit stipulation. By that I mean, we've never had a standard singles women's match at Mania. That was non-title. We've had cat fights and garbage like that. We've had title matches that were standard singles matches, obviously, but never a regular women's match that wasn't like a fucking tag team match or a battle royal or a 12-pack challenge or a 6-woman tag. No, I'm talking like regular singles women's match. We'd be lucky if we even get Jade and Naomi on the card, and we should. That match makes way more sense at this point than Bayley and Roxanne, which has not been furthered in weeks. But even when it did make sense, they were never making the Mania card. We'd be lucky if we even get fucking Lyra and Chelsea Green on the card, let alone Bayley and Roxanne Perez, for a match one-on-one. Westway Farm, Western Cape said Bianca Belair being booed the entire time in Europe. Maybe legit something wrong with the crowds over there. I don't think they like black women. Hey, I mean, I don't want to go quite that far. I don't think it's a racism thing. I don't know honestly what it is. I think they just really like Rhea Ripley. If it's if it's a race thing over there in Europe, I mean, I can't speak to that because I don't live in Europe. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's not a racist thing. That would be problematic. But I don't know. The build has sucked, though. I'll tell you that much. Nick is joining us. Says, hello, friend. Nick, what's going on, dude? Great to see you as always, my friend. Nick actually just came back with his wife from Animal Kingdom, and I think they went to Magic Kingdom. They were on a cruise over at Disney. So Nick is back here in the States with his Wi-Fi. Another Wi-Fi was shitty there for a while on the plan they had over there or whatever it was. But Nick, hope you're doing well. Looking forward to hearing about the trip the next time we see you soon. Ahmed said, best Raquel match in quite a while. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good match. Had no real heat. I didn't really think Raquel was going to win, but as a match, I thought it was fine. Alexis said 10 degrees Celsius is 50 Fahrenheit, LOL. I just looked it up. All right, so yeah, 50 is good. 50 is, if we can get 50 now, I mean, obviously, hopefully a little bit higher in the spring. We typically go from winter right into summer. It typically goes from like here in the Northeast anyway, in the last couple of years, it goes from like 20, 30, high 30s, low 40 degrees to like fucking 70 by early June. There's never really any in between. JCW555 says the fact that they're incorporating Jey Uso botching into the storyline is so fucking lame. LOL. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, honestly, I cannot give them the benefit of the doubt with Jey tripping last night. Honestly, I thought that was legit. If it was not legit, then props to them for planning that and whatever. It was fucking embarrassing, honestly. If the whole story is that Jey is just botching, honestly, I don't really think it's lame that they're incorporating the botch from last week, his failed dive over the top rope. Like, they're trying to make sense of it. Like, it was a legit botch. But Jey ended up botching later on, which I guarantee was not part of the story because they didn't correct him. Jey told Jimmy later on in the show, I'm 3-0 against Gunther. Brother, you're 0-3, you fucking idiot. Like, listen, I love Jey. But I was literally like, I groaned and I rolled my eyes. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is like the third time. That time it was a legit botch. It's like, come on, man. Can you not say the right shit? That was along the same lines as Jimmy, and I shit you not. I'm sure the footage exists. They took it out of the SmackDown airing of the show when it aired in the States about a week and a half ago. It was that segment where LA Knight was in the ring and Jimmy Uso was in the ring and the Timu Bloodline came out and whatever. Jimmy Uso made a comment about, I shit you not, he said something along the lines of going after the Tag Team United States Championship, the United States Tag Team titles. And I think they took it out of when it aired in the States. But when I was watching it live with a VPN on Netflix at like Friday afternoon, I'm like, well, what the fuck? And then Solo also fucked up as well, which they definitely took out. I think he almost said fuck in his promo. That was funny. I'm like, what is up with these guys' promo? The former Bloodline guys are just, I don't know. It was garbage. It just was, I don't know. Something's going on there. Grunt said 5 to 10 equals 41 for Ross, 41 to 50 Celsius. 20 Celsius is like 68 Fahrenheit. Oh, yeah, 68 is perfect. Anything above that is a little too hot, but like, of course, that's like room temperature, so it makes sense. But thank you for doing the math. Yeah, and Alexis did beat you to it. Let's see. Alexis saying I'm trying my best not to get canceled. Yeah, I know. I don't want to slander the Europeans here. I don't think it's a racist thing. I mean, that's your opinion, and that's totally fine. I can't really add to that conversation. I don't really have I have nothing to say on that front. I don't want to get canceled here, like she said. Noob said, yeah, because both Lyra and Chelsea's runs as mid-card champions are kind of underwhelming from the jump. More so Lyra than Chelsea. Chelsea's making the most of what she's got. At least Chelsea's on the fucking show every single week. Lyra has not been. She's been inventing the championship more lately, which is nice, but there's no real story there. It's a workhorse title, which is good, but they're not really giving people a real reason to give a fuck about the belt when she's beating people that the fans also do not give a shit about. Richie said earlier, Chelsea has been doing her best. Yeah, like I said, has been doing her best to maximize her minutes despite the lack of women's mid-card title presence. Lyra, however, I have no clue what they're doing with her, and she has no character direction. I agree. I have no idea what's going on there. I mean, I guess they're heading towards a rematch with Bayley because Bayley beat her in that Chamber qualifier like a month ago. I like that they're acknowledging that, not forgetting about it. But like Bailey feels so fucking cold right now. She has had no real character work on these shows at all in a long time. Lyra's just kind of there. We're not really hearing from her on the show. It's just kind of there right now, and it's not really worthy of the WrestleMania build. That's the thing. They introduced these titles at the worst possible fucking time, right before WrestleMania, where they're automatically going to get lost in the shuffle, and that's exactly what's happened. Daniel said, smart to incorporate last week's botch. Jay Botch trying to explain the... Yeah, exactly. Jay Botch trying to explain the botch, saying that he was 3-0 LMAO. Jimmy smacked Gunther back to Walter, though. Sheesh. Yeah, that slap was something else. That was a pretty aggressive slap. Richie said, remember that time AJ Styles botched to move on the Indies after he left TNA and they turned it into a storyline for a few of their shows? WWE might need to adopt that for Jay. When did they incorporate? Are you talking about like when he botched the Styles Clash? And I don't think he botched it. I think if that's what I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I know AJ, he hit the Styles Clash and a couple of people post TNA. They clearly didn't know how to take the move because I think they incorporated into his New Japan stuff. I wasn't really watching the product at that point because I think he like broke someone's neck. I think he injured Yoshitatsu on it and a couple other people, but I just don't think they knew how to take the move because he hasn't injured anyone else with it since. Grunt said, that's my Royal Rumble winning horse. Yeah, Jey Uso, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's who won the Royal Rumble, that won Grunt the Royal Rumble game. So he's not wrong on that front. Ahmed said, Graham, Damian Priest made fun of him on Instagram. Oh, that's funny. Or on Twitter, one of the socials. I did not see that. That's pretty fucking funny. I'm surprised I'm surprised he beat Drew McIntyre, too. Drew McIntyre is typically a lot better at that with just making fun of shit like that. Ahmed also said, please watch Chelsea versus Sol Ruka, best Chelsea match in her reign. Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's kind of a low bar to say it's the best title match of her reign. She hasn't really been champion. I mean, she's been champion for 3 months, I guess. A lot of the match, I mean, the only person she's really faced is fucking Michin. She's had 3 matches on SmackDown with Michin, the third one being the best of the bunch. The other 2 were total throwaway, and even the third one had interference. And the third one was good. But I did see the Sol Ruka match that aired on NXT last week. That's what you're talking about. I thought they did work well together and had a nice match for the Women's United States Championship. So let's get into the scheduled questions here. If you guys are watching live, be sure to like the video. Like I said earlier, I would appreciate it. Subscribe, hit the bell button. You guys know the drill. And also, if you have more questions, send them in the chat. I'll get back to them in a couple of minutes after we answer these first couple of questions from YouTube from our man, Micah Does It. His first question was, what do you think of WWE doing a Beat the Clock challenge to add Rhea Ripley to the match at Mania? Basically, Rhea Ripley would have to beat both Io and Bianca's times to get into the match. Micah, that is honestly an infinitely better idea than anything we have fucking seen on these shows for weeks. Like, I think someone said, and I'll get into this when we get into the Road to WrestleMania discussion a bit deeper, because the whole headline of this video is it underwhelming? Why does the Road to WrestleMania feel so cold? Someone asked about it a little bit later on, which we'll get into. But honestly, like the women's segment specifically, they feel like, as someone said on Twitter a week or so ago, they feel like they've been written by AI. All of Raw the last 2 weeks feels like it's been written by AI. SmackDown too. More so SmackDown, but Raw the last couple of weeks as well. It's honestly, like, amazing to me. Like, they're just so lifeless and uninspired. So my point is, if that's how you get Rhea Ripley in the match, because Rhea Ripley was out there saying, oh, I lost my championship, where's my rematch? We don't do fucking automatic rematches clauses anymore, Rhea Ripley. I mean, if we did, then Liv Morgan would have gotten a rematch right after she lost it back earlier this year. Do you not pay attention to the product? We don't do automatic rematches anymore. But she is getting a shot next week. She lost fucking clean, by the way. She lost clean to Io Sky. It was her own fault that she got distracted by Bianca Belair. That was her own fucking fault. And Adam Pearce's grand solution is giving Rhea another shot and making Bianca referee. I feel like I'm playing fucking 2K GM mode with this AI booking bullshit. It's honestly amazing to me. We haven't seen a Beat the Clock challenge. The last Beat the Clock challenge that I remember was when they did it with Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky before Mania 35. I remember it being done then. They've probably done it since then. That's the last one that I remember. Honestly, that would work. That would work to get Rhea in the match. It would make more sense than whatever the fuck else they're doing right now. Micah's second question, speaking of the Jey Uso botches, which botch was worse? 1, Matt Hardy falling over the top rope. That was in NXT in 2010, for those that don't know what he's talking about. Number 2, Titus World Slide. That would have been from the Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018 in Saudi Arabia. 3, Flop Dollar, when Flop Dollar, or Top Dollar rather, fell over the top rope, and the same exact botch that Jey Uso did, actually. And that was the 4th one he mentioned, Jey Uso doing the Flop Dollar on Raw last week. So he's saying which botch was worse? Matt Hardy's in 2010, Titus's in 2018, Flop Dollar's in what would that have been? 2023, I think? 2022? Probably 2022. May have been 2023. I don't remember. It was one of the two. Or Jey Uso's from last week. The worst botch of them all was Titus's. Titus's was comical. But is it the worst botch? Like, it's the biggest botch because he literally was running to the ring, as we all know, and he tripped and fell and slipped right. Now, it could have been catastrophic. He could have fucking died. Like, he could have hit his head or neck into the steel ring post or whatever, the shit that kind of holds the ring together. Like, it could have been a lot worse. But because it wasn't, it was funny. That's the biggest botch of them all. That's the most infamous. But that is probably WWE Shockmaster moment, is that Titus World slide from 2018. The worst botch is what you're asking. Probably Top Dollars, because Top Dollars literally, like, not that they had any momentum to begin with. Hit Row, I liked Hit Row. They were never really over from the moment they came back. WWE didn't do a whole ton to get people to care about them, and they weren't exactly great in the ring either. They just weren't really a hot act, and the fact they were missing Swerve really hurt them in the long run the second time around. That botch became like synonymous with Top Dollar after that, to the point where they had to turn heel, and they were never taken seriously. And it would be one thing if they capitalized on that and they got a lot of heat for it. But they were treated like jobbers from that point forward. Maybe not like the very next week. They were already kind of being jobbed out even prior to that point. But that literally killed Top Dollar's career in WWE. It got him fired a year later. He just was never able to recover. Now, he has been able to recover in TNA. I think he's had a good run for himself in TNA as the digital media champion, doing the first class stuff with Casey Navarro, and earlier than that, Rich Swann. I like Top Dollar in TNA, and he had a very good match, actually, not that long ago with Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship back in December. But in WWE, it killed his career, so I got to go with the Flop Dollar one. Biggest botch, Titus World Slide. The worst botch, Top Dollar. Jordan B. from YouTube, their question was, I thought this was a really good question. From last week, he sent this in. Which tag team that never won the tag title surprised you the most? For me, it's Crime Time, he says. It's a great question. I'll also pose that question to you guys as well before we go back to the chat. What tag team never won the tag team titles that surprised you the most? Crime Time's a great answer. I don't know if it surprises me the most. It does a little bit, because at that point they had 2 sets of tag team titles. My answer is Enzo and Cass. Honestly, it is incredible to me that even honestly, I was going to say Enzo and Cass because they only had 1 set of tag team titles. That's actually not even true. When Enzo and Cass were around, when they debuted in 2016 on the main roster, there was 1 set of tag team titles. But when they brought back the brand split, they established new tag titles for SmackDown. So Raw had their own tag titles, and they could have held those tag titles. And my belief is still, and I think this has even been confirmed or reported, whatever, that Enzo and Cass were going to win the tag titles at WrestleMania 33. That was going to be their grand moment. They were going to finally win the tag titles in Mania 33. But because the Hardys came back, they couldn't get that moment. And immediately they were like kind of phased out. They broke up literally like 2 or 3 months later. I think Enzo had heat anyway, and Cass ended up getting into some trouble. They were both gone from the company within a year. Within a year of them breaking up, both guys were fired for different reasons. But Enzo and Cass, like, we kind of shit on Cass. Cass is great. Big Bill is great. Enzo's kind of a clown now, but like, we shit on him. But as a tag team, those guys were fucking awesome, including in NXT. They were so fucking over. The fact that they did not win the NXT tag team titles also really shocked me. It's not even like they held the NXT tag titles, but never the WWE tag titles. They were never even NXT tag team champions. That spot where they should have won the tag titles went to the fucking Vaudevillains instead. I have no idea why. But the Vaudevillains ended up winning the tag titles in Brooklyn. That really should have been Enzo and Cass's moment, but whatever. But yeah, they were really, really over. They were being compared, and I even made the comparison that they were the modern-day New Age Outlaws. Now, the New Age Outlaws weren't out there having amazing matches the same way that like Edge and Christian were, and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and shit, or the Hardys and stuff like that. But, they won a lot of tag titles, and they were really over. Enzo and Cass were really, really over for like a 2 or 3 year span, and WWE never really fully capitalized on that. in NXT or especially on the main roster. And then they never even held the tag titles once. Like, at least the New Age Outlaws were like 4, 5, 6-time tag team champions. Enzo and Cass never even held the belts once. In any promotion, they broke up as soon as they left WWE. They teamed a time or two in the years that followed in like the indies and shit and never really stuck. Crime Time also surprises me because when they were around from like, what, 06 they debuted through 09, 2010, they were around for like 3 or 4 years, dude. They did get fired there for a little bit and then were brought back. I think after Mania in 24, they were brought back. I think they were fired in 07. They weren't gone for very long. But even then, they didn't win the tag team titles, and Raw had their own set of tag team titles that they did not win. They challenged for the tag titles a lot. I remember Crime Time challenging Trevor and Murdoch and Kay. They challenged Team Priceless, Rhodes and DiBiase. They challenged the Hart Foundation. They lost every single time, and they really should have gotten a run. Other teams that surprised me that they didn't get a run, the Rockers. I mean, you can kind of include the Rockers because I think they won the belts on a house show at one point. Not a house show. It was I think it was a TV taping, but they never ended up acknowledging it on the air, and they had the titles taken off of them soon after. So technically, officially in WWE canon, the Rockers were never WWE Tag Team Champions. That footage is out there somewhere, though. And also the Mega Powers. You would think that when Hogan and Savage were teaming in 80, what would that have been, 88? Going into 89, I think. You would have thought that they won the tag team titles. They did team quite a bit. They headlined pay-per-views and shit. But Hogan and Savage together as a team were never tag team champions. Hogan did end up winning tag titles years later with other partners and shit. I know Edge, maybe other people as well. I know he also teamed with Brutus Beefcake. I don't think they ever won the tag titles. But anyway, him and Savage were never the tag team champions. You would think they would have had Hogan pull double duty and be a double champion because he was already WWE champion at that point. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But yeah, they also were never WWE tag team champions. So let's pull back up the chat here. Going to rewatch it or rewind it just a little bit. Nick said earlier, whoa, Chelsea is the longest reigning U.S. champion. Do not slander the queen, LOL. Nick is right. Chelsea Green is indeed the longest reigning women's United States champion. Can't take that away from her. And also the shortest, and also the youngest, and the ugliest, and the prettiest, and the the oldest, whatever she says. Grunt said, Solo asking if this is the build, the backlash in the title of his Raw review popped me. He's not wrong. I started his Raw review earlier, and he is not wrong. It does indeed feel like we're on the road to backlash. Like at this point, and I will talk about the road to WrestleMania in a little bit. That was, I think, the next question, actually. Or no, it's in a couple of questions later. But yeah, I mean, I think I've largely enjoyed the road to WrestleMania, but the last week or two, I'm like, this is just half-ass shit. Just half-ass shit. Richie said the AJ story botch happened in Chikara in 2015. I think he went for the forearm and slipped, and the angle they turned it into was AJ being scared to hit the move. Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually smart. I thought you were talking about the Styles Clash stuff. D Professor said Yeetamania, X Botchamania checkmark. Yeah, he has botched the last couple of weeks. Again, I don't know if it's on purpose or not. I think the slip last night, it looked on purpose to me, but if it was intentional, it's not exactly a great story. I appreciate the fact that they're trying to incorporate it into the angle, but it doesn't, it's not the most riveting story, let's put it that way. Daniel said Titus was a botch farmer his whole career, LOL. Brother, I literally had people telling me for years that Titus O'Neil was a future world champion. I shit you not. And I was a big Darren Young guy, and Darren Young, he's actually still around as Fred Durst, like he's fucking from who sings the fucking Mania 17 song? I don't know. I can't think of it right now, but Fred Durst is his singer. Fred Rosser is Darren Young's name, okay? I'm thinking of Limp Bizkit, okay? I'm thinking of fucking Limp Bizkit for some reason. Fred Rosser, Darren Young, was not world champion material. I thought he had a higher ceiling, but people said that he and Darren should have split when they did to make Titus a future world champion. The guy has a golden ticket, a guaranteed spot in heaven waiting for him. Does Titus O'Neil. The gates have his face on the lock, okay? The lock to get into the pearly gates has Titus O'Neil's face on them. What he will never be, and what he should have never been, is a world champion. He has 2 left feet. So let's just clear that up right now. Richie says, Titus botch number 1, 2 Shockmaster, 3 that awkward Kalisto promo where he runs away. Yeah, I remember that. That was the 2016 WWE draft. They were talking to him about being drafted to SmackDown, and he was like, "Oh, lucha things," and then he runs off and says "fuck" or "shit" or something. Yeah, that was really funny. That was on the network, I think. Daniel Malcolm said the Rockers for me, as far as most surprising team to have never won the tag titles. Daniel also said the reversed match versus Hart Foundation doesn't count. Yeah, no, it technically in WWE canon does not count. Richie said Enzo and Cass were so over, man. Major ball dropper right there. I agree. Johnny said, 10 years ago, WrestleMania 31 didn't have a good build. You're right. It didn't. I said earlier, Mania 41 could turn into be an amazing show. I'm not talking about the fact that it's going to be a great card. I'm talking about the fact, because builds do matter. Just to say, oh yeah, the show's going to be great, so the build doesn't matter, is bullshit, because it gets people excited for the show. There's people that will go off of the build and be like, this build has been awful. Why the fuck would I pay a ticket to go watch the show in person? Because you say it's going to be amazing, or it could be amazing, or compare it to WrestleMania 31, but what if it's not? The road to WrestleMania 32 had its ups and downs and was underwhelming at certain points. Was that a great show? No, that show fucking sucked. So, I mean, you can't always just say, oh, yeah, the build's awful, but the show will deliver. That could be the case. I think it will be the case, but you can't guarantee that. Then you waste a fucking $1,000 and flying out to Vegas to see a shitty show. Or buying the fucking Peacock feed to watch it on there or whatever. Which is a lot less money, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Daniel said Enzo and Cass were over like Rover. They really were. Richie said, didn't Cass get injured as well on an episode of Raw that kind of derailed them too? Not when he was with Enzo. He got injured when he was broken up from Enzo. They broke up in the summer. I think Enzo actually had the head. Remember, he had the concussion for like a month. The whole Simon Gotch thing. He got injured off that concussion, but he was only gone for like a month. He came back pretty quickly. Cass got injured. I think he injured his ACL or MCL or whatever. I think right after he beat Enzo at Great Balls of Fire. And I think he beat Big Show at SummerSlam in a fucking cage match or a shark cage match with Enzo in the cage. It was stupid. I think he got injured either in that match or right after. And then he was gone for a while. So any momentum he had on his own was completely gone. And then Enzo actually turned heel soon after that. And he kind of capitalized on that momentum and won the Cruiserweight title. It was garbage. I mean, Enzo was a terrible wrestler, but I mean, it was at least trying to make 205 Live into something different, to be fair. Daniel said Cass had a huge drinking problem towards the end of his WWE run. Yeah, I mean, so even after he got injured, he came back. And he was back working with Daniel Bryan, one of the best wrestlers in the world, right after Bryan returned to the ring, actually, at WrestleMania. A prime opportunity for Cass. And I think he lost every match they had on pay-per-view. He fucking lost. And then they fired him like the next day. Like, I think he lost to Daniel Bryan at Money in the Bank, and then they fired him like a day or two later because of the drinking issue. I think they may have said you got to go to rehab or something, and then he said no. He's talked about it before, but it was, he had a big issue there for a while. Johnny said, are the Usos the best WWE only tag team of all time? Like tag team that's exclusive to WWE? They might be. Because you got to take it, I mean, that's such a limitation as far as like what does that mean? Like it's either them, New Day, or really Edge and Christian, because the Hardys have been outside of WWE. Even Edge and Christian now are in AEW. They haven't teamed yet, but Edge and Christian, I feel like some people would say are a better team than the Usos, but they were only around for like a couple of years. I would put the Usos over Enzo and Cass. The Usos were around and have been around for like 15 years and had a lot more success, and I would probably put the Usos over Edge and Christian anyway. But yeah, honestly, like what other WWE exclusive tag teams even are there? Like the Legion of Doom don't count because they wrestled outside of WWE. The Hardys wrestled outside of WWE. The Dudleys wrestled outside of WWE. The Hart Foundation, they wrestled outside of WWE, did they not? If it's the Hart Foundation are probably a better team than the fucking Usos. That's tough to say. But the Usos are up there, if not number one. Grunt said the Mexicools, Super Crazy and Psychosis, and the Rhodes Scholars are like the big ones for me. Also DX, not winning the tag title from the Spirit Squad in 06. Rhino and Tajiri in 04 also would have been cool. Yeah, I don't really remember the Rhino and Tajiri tag team in 04. Mexicools, that was before my time. I remember the team. I remember them in '07 coming out with the lawnmowers, which is so racist. You talk about racist, that's fucking racist. The Rhodes Scholars, yeah, it was really surprising they did not win the tag titles. They challenged for those tag titles a lot from 2012 to 2013 and never won them once. They really, Team Hell, I think the problem with the Rhodes Scholars was that at that time, Team Hell No had the belts and then the Shield. That was it. Like, I think those two teams dominated the title picture for like an entire year. Team Hell No had like a 8-month run, and the Shield had like a 5 or 6-month run. So those titles were not going to anyone else. And by that point, when the Shield finally lost them, Cody actually did end up winning the tag titles, but with Goldust and not with Damian Sandow. DX did end up winning the tag titles, just not in '06 from the Spirit Squad. They ended up winning the tag titles years later from Jericho. So honestly, DX probably would have been my answer, but DX did end up winning tag team titles right before Shawn Michaels retired in 2010. Ahmed said Triple H is playing things safe for this year's WrestleMania build. I can't even say that. I mean, yes, on Raw they are, but like they turned John Cena heel. And that's not even really playing things safe. That's a major risk. They turned John Cena, the biggest babyface probably of all time, fucking heel. And I think the follow-up has been good, but I think I expected more. Just parts of it don't even make sense to me yet. And we talked about it on WrestleRant Radio last week with Mr. Marceau. I've complained about it enough, but I don't know. It's just, I've expected more. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Limp Bizkit. Thank you, Grunt and Daniel. Fred Rosser is jacked these days, Daniel says. He is. Fred Rosser is very jacked. Johnny said, what weapon do you want to see Jon Moxley have in his next hardcore match? Maybe a remote so I can change the channel? I kid. I don't know. That shit was... I'll talk about that. Actually, someone asked me about that spot from last week's Dynamite. I thought it was so dumb. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I forgot about it the next day, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you which weapon I think he should use next, because the guy's a moron for even doing that in the first place. And AEW probably shouldn't have allowed it, just in my opinion. Yeah, Richie says, what a name for a pay-per-view. I remember the WWE, the hashtag WWE balls trending on Twitter that day. Yeah, exactly. Richie also said, Enzo made 205 Live interesting for that little bit when he was champ, but the allegations happened. Yeah, I mean, listen, 205 Live was a very good wrestling show initially, but it kind of lacked excitement and people kind of forgot about it within like a couple of months. But when they put the belt on Enzo, it made it feel different. The guy was a terrible fucking wrestler, but it did make it feel different there for a little bit. I don't even think the allegations ended up being true for Enzo. I think he was wrongfully accused. I don't remember exactly what happened. But he hasn't really had a run anywhere else since. He was in MLW for a little while years ago, and that kind of fizzled out. I know he did that run-in in Ring of Honor in 2019. That went nowhere. Yeah, he's just, even though I don't think that's like he has this stigma about his name like the Velveteen Dream does, or Tessa Blanchard, or Marty Scurll. I don't think Enzo has any actual allegations against him now. If he did, I think he cleared them up. I don't really think it's worth for any company to bring him in, especially on his own. At this point, I feel like his time would have been 10 years ago. Johnny asked, last time that you listened to Limp Bizkit My Way? Probably not that long ago. I mean, it's on my Spotify playlist, and I'll put it on random every once in a while, and that song will come up. So probably within the last month or two, to be honest. As far as when the last time I listened to that song was. And honestly, it's also WrestleMania season, so as Mania gets closer, we're still a couple of weeks away. But I'll listen to the Mania songs a lot, and that's one of them because it's a great song. Even though, I think that's part of it too. I was going to say it feels like '01. It gives those '01 vibes. But that's part of what makes it so good. D Professor said, first of all, D Professor, thank you for joining us. I forgot to say that earlier. Second of all, your comment was, hot take, when you ever hear Limp Bizkit's track on wrestling promos, you know it's Austin versus Rock brawling. Of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that's a hot take, but, yeah, boom, they start like brawling and shit. That's a top tier WrestleMania video package right there. Daniel said, who was supposed to win between DX and Rated RKO when Hunter tore his quad again? The match itself, probably DX. Because if you think about it, Rated RKO ended up losing the belt right after anyway to Shawn and Cena. So honestly, it probably would have been them, because I think they had a match on pay-per-view a couple of months before that they either lost or it was a no contest. So I think that New Year's Revolution match where Triple H got hurt was, I think that was a rematch, and honestly, I think they were going to win. Now, that wouldn't have changed anything. I think the plan, or actually, no, it would have changed something. I think the plan at that point was to do Cena and Triple H too, not Cena and Shawn. I think that was a pivot, so to speak. I don't know what Shawn would have done. He probably would have been in fucking Money in the Bank or something, but I think that was the plan. Richie said everyone praising that spot, rather, with Moxley that he did last week was it was the best thing since sliced bread. It was so bewildering. It was dumb as hell, but I guess it worked in their favor, got people talking for a day. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they wanted, right? I'm not, someone asked about the overreaction of the spot or people overreacting. I mean, depends. Depends where on Twitter you're looking. Some people will look at that and say it's the death of AEW. I mean, do I think it's a stupid spot? Yes. Is that spot for me? No. Is it fucking gross? Yes. Does that shit belong on national television? No, I don't think so. But will I say that AEW should be, should they die for that spot? No. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. Do I think it was stupid? I do, but I'll get to that later. Grunt said if DX had won the titles in 06, they could have been incorporated that into their feuds with the McMahons and Rated RKO. And it would have elevated the titles big time, in my opinion. Yeah, you're not wrong. That would have made sense. Daniel Malcolm says, remember when Enzo showed up post-firing to that WWE show and then got thrown out, LOL. Yeah, I think that was Survivor Series 2018. I think he showed up in the crowd with a fucking wig on or something. It got people talking on Twitter for a couple hours and then it immediately got forgotten about it. It's not even, I mean, you obviously just brought it up, but it's not even this big thing that people remember all these years later. Oh, that amazing Enzo spot where he tried to run in. No one gave a fuck. No one cared. And that was literally within months of him getting fired. You would think if anyone would have cared, it would have created a big scene. Oh, former WWE star shows up. That was just dumb. It was such an attention-grabbing stunt. Nothing even came out of it. Johnny said AEW is going to forget about Megan Bayne after she loses to Toni Storm. I hope not. And honestly, I hope she wins. Because even with Toni Storm getting the belt back from Mariah May, I think is fine. And then retaining against Mariah May is fine. I think I think Megan Bayne should beat her. Do you want to capitalize on this momentum and really build a new star? Put the fucking belt on Megan Bayne. I don't see why not. It's not like Toni Storm has any real challengers waiting in the wings anyway. Johnny said TNA doesn't care about people's troubles past. They brought in Tessa Blanchard, so they were willing to eat the bullet on that one, I guess. Richie said Oro and Enzo and Cass showed up to a Ring of Honor show unbeknownst to the other talent and just got jumped. Yeah, I was at that show. That was the G1 Supercard show. I mentioned that one earlier where they made that quick run-in and then it was so bizarre. There was no follow-up. The talent had no idea about it. They talked about it since. And Tama Tonga actually and Enzo had a mini feud on Twitter after that. It was so fucking weird. And it didn't even lead anywhere. It was Ring of Honor trying to create some buzz and it just sucked. Yeah, that was weird, dude. That was actually the same night that Bret Hart got jumped to the Hall of Fame. So not exactly a good look, but they probably didn't know when they did that the Bret Hart thing was going to happen, obviously. I don't think it happened at that point, or it just happened. They didn't know about it. I don't know. Ahmed said, yeah, Cody Cena is the only build I'm interested in, even that they are not explaining us as to why John Cena joined The Rock's offer. Other than that, I wouldn't blame you guys for calling it multi-match mania. It is multi-match mania. Not every match is a multi-man match. There are more singles matches than there were at WrestleMania 2000. Now, this was a one-night card. How many singles matches there would be, I don't know. But there are more singles matches at this one than Mania 2000. But there are still a lot of multi-person matches that we really do not need. Daniel said, DX buried Spirit Squad at every turn. They literally buried them. Yeah, they did. Spirit Squad was a joke team anyway, so it didn't even really matter. But yeah, Spirit Squad never got one over on them. Daniel also said, I agree. Have Tony create another star because it's not like Mercedes is doing that at the moment. Yeah, I don't want to completely shit on Mercedes. Is she my cup of tea? No, but I will say this. If we are headed to Mercedes and Athena, okay, and Athena beats Mercedes, no, I'm not saying she will. I'm not going to say confidently that she will. But if this is building to Athena being the first person to beat Mercedes, then I think this could have potential. Mercedes isn't really doing the job. She's not putting anyone over, but it depends where we're going with her TBS title run. Who is she ultimately losing to? I don't think she should have lost to Billy Starks or Momo Watanabe or fucking whoever else. She probably should have lost to Chris Statlander a couple months ago, but it's fine. If she ultimately loses to Athena, then I'm totally fine with it. Johnny even said, I think Tony wants Tony versus Monet at All In for the world title. Yeah, maybe Monet would have to lose the TBS title first. All In's in July, so yeah, I mean, she could lose the title to Athena soon, and then set up Tony and Monet at All In. Maybe Monet wins there, and that's I could certainly see that. Daniel said, "How did Punk by himself build the match better than when all three of them were in the ring?" It's a great question. That segment last night was still a waste of time. I enjoyed it, but it's like he's just advertising his next appearance on SmackDown this week. They've done this. They did this with Heyman a couple weeks ago. They did it with Rollins last week, where they're just out there to have the crowd sing the song and like, oh, we get CM Punk on the show. Just save him for the fucking dark match. As a TV segment, that was a waste of time. But even that was better than the segment from SmackDown last week, which was also a fucking waste of time in a very basic brawl last week on SmackDown. They had like 20 minutes to do a segment last week with Punk, Rollins, and Cena, or not Cena, Punk, Rollins, and Reigns. And the best they can come up with, it was like a 3-minute back and forth because they wasted so much time on the singing and the walking out and the commercials and a basic ass brawl that got me no more excited for that match than I already was. I mean, come on, man. Grun said Athena better be the one. I hope so, but I'm not convinced. Johnny said, I think Camille should be the one to beat Monet for the TBS title. That would actually make sense, and that would be assuming that Camille actually comes back at some point. I'm not convinced that she is, but that would make sense. I don't think they would have Camille go over on Monet. I don't. I don't think they give a fuck about Camille. That's been pretty evident from the get-go. That would be nice, but I'm not convinced of that. Richie said earlier, thoughts on Braun in a 4-way match in Mania with Penta, Finn, and Dom. Not sure if that was discussed yet or not. No, we haven't talked about that yet. Who cares? Honestly, like, who cares? The match will be good. The match will be, it'll be a very well-wrestled, fun match. I have no doubt about it. But, dude, it's like, can we get an actual story here? It's not that it doesn't make sense, because they have had the Judgment Day scouting Braun Breaker for weeks now. But it's not interesting. I don't think Dom, I mean, if Dom wins, okay. Finn ain't fucking winning. Just give the belt to Penta at this point. The match that we got last night on Raw should have been the Mania match. You could have built more of a story behind Breaker and Penta. Brother, I don't know. It just feels lazy to me. It feels like we got to get the Judgment Day in the card. No, just do Balor and Dom. Like, just do Balor and Dom. People may not give a fuck about that, but it would make more sense than throwing them in the IC title picture, a belt they're probably not going to win. And even if they do, it's just like, ugh. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan. I don't like the 4-way thing. It's just, it feels lazy to me. Backing up a little bit here. Millennial Noob said, why are women from NXT pairing with Tessa Blanchard? A lot of them are very uncomfortable with working with her. Are you talking about like Cora Jade teaming with Tessa? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not really up to the women, right? It's up to NXT and TNA saying, hey, we want you guys to work together. We as a company, we are working together. It's not really up to the women. I don't think Cora Jade has any personal history with Tessa. They probably don't like her for the shit that she has said and done, but they're just going to have to get over it if it's part of this NXT TNA working relationship. Ahmed said, Richie, why Finn going after the IC title? The last time he won a singles match was back in June, I believe. Yeah, exactly. Who gives a fuck about Finn Balor at this point in the IC title picture? That's why I just don't care. I just don't give a fuck at this point. He is getting dangerously close to becoming the new Dolph Ziggler. I think Miz is already there. Miz, I just cannot give a fuck about. I love Miz. His shit the last couple of weeks, months, years has been terrible. Just absolutely terrible. D Professor said, what would you rate Angle versus Styles' TNA feud? And happy Thursday, Graham. Happy Thursday, D Professor. Random question, but what would I rate the feud? Probably like an 8. I mean, AJ and Kurt, that was when I started watching TNA in 08. They had great matches. They had great matches in 08. They may have had matches before that too, but they definitely feuded in 08. They had more matches in 09 and 2010. They had a match in 2013. I remember that. One of their last major matches, actually, at Slammiversary on my birthday in 2013. Always loved their chemistry. I love the Angle and Styles feud. I'm glad we got it when both guys were really in their prime. Daniel said, I popped for I Work with Children. That was funny. The crowd didn't pop for it. We may have been the only ones who popped for it, but I thought it was funny, though. Ahmed said, Graham, if I had the pen, I would have saved Roman versus Punk at SummerSlam and just do Roman versus Seth. As for Punk, he can be in the Cody Cena build. I agree, Ahmed. I agree. I don't think this Roman, I mean, it's the, what's the expression? Like each collective match is weaker than the sum of its parts. Isn't that what the expression is? Something like that, where like I feel like Punk and Roman would be a much bigger match than a triple threat, or Punk and Rollins 2 or 3 or whatever, or just Roman and Rollins. I would just do that honestly and have Punk just feud with Cody, and Cena could have done something else and just not turn him heel. I would have been that to me would have made more sense because this Cody Cena thing is still interesting, but even last night's segment was the exact same shit that we got a week ago. They got to hurry this the fuck up. Daniel said, thoughts on the Tiffy Charlotte segment? Tiffy looked out of her league, unfortunately. I thought it was good. It was better than a lot of the other segments they've had up to that point. Charlotte did outclass her, like, promo-wise, because Charlotte she seems very off the cuff, and it's kind of awkward sometimes. Tiffany's not off the cuff. She's I have to read my promo script word for word. I think it's good, though, honestly, because I think it could teach her to not do that as much and to make her more comfortable as a character. So it was kind of weird. Charlotte got the better of her in that promo exchange last week. I liked the segment overall. It felt real. But maybe it helps Tiffany in the long run so she's not as robotic. Johnny said, are you excited for Lyra versus Bayley at Mania? Excited? No. I think it could be a good match. And honestly, I don't even think we get that match at Mania. I think there's a better chance we get Lyra and Bayley versus Liv and Raquel so you get Liv on the show. That's probably where we're headed. We might get Lyra and Bayley before then, but we get Lyra and Bayley versus Raquel and Liv, just so they get Liv on the show and Bayley. But I still don't really care. Let's see. Ahmed said, Graham, how funny the Judgment Day and the Bloodline going after mid-card titles after this Mania. Yeah, I mean, basically that's where we're at with those factions. They're back in the mid-card. Richie said, I think a more exciting matchup would have been Braun, Penta, Ludwig, and throw in Sheamus. I guess there's not 500 triple threat matches at Mania. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, the fact that we're even getting 2 triple threats is lazy. But yeah, if they threw it to make it a 4-way, we might get a 4-way for the U.S. title. That's the problem. We might get a 4-way with Knight, Strowman, Solo, and Fatu. Sheamus we have not fucking seen since Saturday Night's Main Event in January. I don't think they bring him back until after Mania. There's nothing for him to do. People saying, oh, we should be on the Mania card. Like, not everyone's making the Mania card. I mean, if it wasn't Sheamus, you would complain about fucking LA Knight not being in the card. I mean, not everyone can be on the card. Daniel said happy Thursday. Yeah, I said happy Thursday. I think, did I read that chat correctly? The AJ... Yeah, D Professor said happy Thursday. I just read his chat. Happy Tuesday. We're all fucking messed up here thinking it's Thursday. But yeah, the idea from Richie, I like that idea a little bit more than what we're getting right now. Johnny said, Khan appeared on the Battleground podcast suggesting Camille will be back in AW at some point. I saw that. I know what you're talking about. I'm still not optimistic. I mean, what did he say about Ricky Starks? You're acting as if, like, because he said that she will be back. What did he say about Ricky Starks all those times? Oh, yeah, he could be back at any point. He got fucking released. They let him go. I mean, come on. So, that's not I know what you're talking about. It's nice that he acknowledged it, but you kind of have to acknowledge if you're fucking asked a question about it. Noob said, I started watching TNA in 06 and 07. Yeah, those were some good years. Daniel said, notice the WWE crowds never really pop when Punk mentions those AEW references. Yes, I noticed that as well. That means that it's... a lot of the people either just don't care or they just don't know. So you should probably stop doing it. I think it's funny, but I mean, you should probably stop doing it. Ahmed said, or was it Ahmed? Or Johnny, rather. AJ Styles and Kurt Angle versus Daniels and Kaz was a great tag match. Normal match turned into a tornado style. If you're talking the match from Slammiversary 2012, that's one of my favorite TNA matches ever. I fucking love that match. That's an amazing match. Very underrated, too. You also said Triple H feels that he can take it easy with the build for Mania 41, having 8 weeks of build. I don't know if that's entirely it. I feel like the build that we're getting now is going to be the same in a couple of weeks. I don't want to be negative, but I feel like it's going to be the same thing in 2 weeks from now, especially when Cena's not on the show. Just crazy. Just nuts. I agree, Richie. Hashtag save us Tyreek. Hashtag love Ziggler. Where's Tyreek today? Tyreek hasn't popped in with a random comment that is not love Ziggler related. And when Tyreek does show up, you guys got to fucking hammer him with Love Ziggler comments. Everybody in the chat. I may not see it in time, especially if I'm answering questions on the other end. I may not see the chat in time. If you guys are here and you see Tyreek show up, bombard him with Love Ziggler questions. He is absolutely seeing it. He is watching now methodically, laughing from his evil lair, maniacally talking about or thinking about, oh yeah, Love Ziggler. They'll never know the answer. Like I could just see him now. Anyway, Kadeem said about that Charlotte promo, didn't she bury Tiffany? I don't know if she buried her, but she definitely outclassed her. I'll put it that way. Alexis said, I feel like we're in the calm before the storm and Tyreek is going to show by accident the wire. So let me know if the mic still works. I think it should be fine, but I think I touched the mic by accident and accidentally messed up the audio feed. But Ahmed also said, Graham, have you watched the Lilo and Stitch trailer? Johnny said, love Liv. And Richie also said, Punk does it for us true marks. Yes, he does. Have I watched the Lilo and Stitch trailer? I have. I watched the Lilo and Stitch trailer. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I think honestly, it looks promising. I think the little girl that plays Lilo does a good job from what I saw. Stitch looks cute. They got the same guy doing Stitch, Chris Sanders. He's kind of the mastermind behind Stitch, and the whole, like, that was his brainchild, so I'm glad they obviously have him involved doing Stitch. From what I saw, it looks good. I'm looking forward to the movie. Maybe it ends up being garbage, but I can't imagine it's any worse than Snow White. Daniel said, imagine Tyreek laughing like Liv Morgan during all of this. I will not do my Liv Morgan my Liv Morgan impression, but yes, he's probably laughing like Liv Morgan right now. Grunt said Punk will be referencing Brawl Out in his retirement promos, I swear, rent-free. You know, I would be very surprised if he didn't make a Brawl In promo or a Brawl In reference in his promo next week in London. They're in London next week. That was the site of Brawl In 2 years ago. So whether it be him or someone else, they should, honestly, if there was any place to mention that, it should probably be there. Anyway, back to these scheduled questions here before we go back to the chat. Emmanuel A. sent these in from YouTube. He said, trying to get into the habit of sending in questions in advance. Again, sorry if some of these things you have addressed before, though. Emmanuel, no worries. Thank you for sending in the questions as always. I appreciate you, dude. The following 3 questions he sent in were good ones, though. His first question was non-wrestling related. As an MCU fan, do you think the franchise continuity is still a draw? I overheard a conversation in my university recently where someone predicted that the next Avengers movie might just be a soft reboot to attract everyone, since most of the new Avengers stuff isn't really hitting and nobody wants to keep up with the Disney Plus shows. So is the continuity still a draw? Is it a draw? Yes. I think hardcore Marvel fans, such as myself, still keep, the continuity of like, oh, this matters and this ties in with that. I think hardcore Marvel fans will always really care about that stuff when it pertains to the comics and just the OCD of it. Like, okay, what is happening at this point when this movie's happening? Like that sort of thing. I think the hardcore Marvel fans will still always care about that regardless. Is it a draw? It's a draw, yes. Is it a draw as much as it used to be? No, because the movies we're in the process right now, Alexis and I are, of rewatching all the past MCU movies, which I've done before, but we're doing it again. And it's just amazing how much more better connected those movies were 10 years ago than they are now. Like, shit now is just so far. Like, I think Brave New World did a good job of connecting shit, but the movies now are so vastly different from one another, for better or for worse, that they just don't feel connected at all. And is it possible that the new Avengers movie, whether it be Doomsday or Secret Wars, whatever, is kind of a reboot for the MCU? Yeah, I think it's a very real possibility. Since I don't know, the Disney Plus stuff will always be there because that's like regular, that's a new thing that Disney really wants for them to do is the streaming services. Some of the shows they like, some of them aren't really worth watching. They're not really must see or worthwhile, but they'll always be there. So you can't really do a soft reboot and then not acknowledge the Disney Plus shows because that shit will always be there to kind of add into the movies. Like the Miss Marvel show tied into the, Marvel's movie. For as bad as that movie was, it tied into that. The Kang stuff in Loki tied into Quantumania. So, I mean, those shows like Brave New World was pretty much a sequel to Falcon Winter Soldier. Alexis just texted me and said that Tyreek is here. So, anyway, the MCU stuff is still a draw, not as much as it used to be. But let's see. Tyreek, wait, hold on. Tyreek is here. You motherfucker, Tyreek! And thank you, chat, for holding him accountable. This fucking guy, I can't... So, like I said, I knew he was going to pop up when I was reading the questions. Thankfully, I have my phone on the side, and Alexis texted me. I can't with this guy. I fucking can't with this guy. I can't. So Tyreek showed up and said, hey, GSM, the Mania build isn't really making me regret not buying a Mania ticket this year, but maybe that's just me. But anyway, gotta go. No. Alexis deleted it. No, Alexis, the moderator, deleted it. What is she doing? Why did she delete it? What the fuck? Why did you do that? Alexis deleted his thing. Don't delete his comment. No. What the fuck? Alexis, don't. I'm going to take away your moderator privileges. Oh, she put him in timeout. If you put him in timeout, then he can't fucking explain himself. Anyway, we'll go back to the chat in a little bit, but I can't believe Tyreek literally did exactly what I thought he would do, and then he left again. This motherfucker, I'm going to meet this guy in person, and he still will not explain himself. One of these days, I can't believe it. I look so annoyed reading that Tyreek comment. Oh, my God. I can't, brother. I can't. Thank you guys for understanding the assignment. All of you said in the chat, Tyreek, like, bruh. I can't, man. Tyreek is he's just a villain. He's a fucking fiend. How do we even continue on as if nothing just happened? That is my question for you guys. How can we just continue on as if this is normal behavior? Tyreek just showed he doesn't have to go. He said, oh, GTG. No, motherfucker, you don't have to go. If you have the time to send in a question about God knows what, about WrestleMania and not being excited about it, sure as fuck you heard us talking about you 5 minutes ago, or everyone in the chat saying, no, you can't go anywhere. You motherfucker, don't do that to us. Tyreek, you goddamn villain. He's over. Tyreek is over. We got to make a Love Ziggler shirt. Alexis. Oh, yeah, where are he? The question is, where is he going all these times? Where is he at the moment? This guy's like the fucking president. I don't want to say the president. That would imply that he's Trump, but hopefully not. But this guy's like, got to be a Secret Service agent or something. I don't know. Alexis, get on that Love Ziggler shirt in the synthwave format like Richie was talking about a while ago. I don't know. This is just crazy. Before I go back to the other questions, I might as well see the other chats that you guys were sending in. But Johnny asked, better laugh, live or ricochet? Ricochets, because Liv's is really annoying. But I guess they're supposed to be annoying. And Richie also said earlier, I was rewatching the Punk doc from 2012 because WWE Vault uploaded it. He mentions Rollins coming in to train but not having money. Crazy how far back the stuff goes, and Punk has his receipts. Yeah, that is crazy. They have a lot of history indeed. Oh, man. Johnny also said Russo brothers make great movies in the MCU but make bad movies outside of the MCU. I did not see Electric State or whatever that Netflix movie was, but I heard it was trash. I just can't believe Tyreek did that. He can't now because he's in timeout, but I can't, man. That is just amazing. This shit will never end. Tyreek will show up for every fucking stream and not explain himself. He did this for the 2K one. We did a 2K stream the other day, and he popped in with something random. He did this on WrestleRant Radio last week for a fucking taped show. He popped up in the chat. Tyreek, man, I will give you credit. You're over. Tyreek, you're over. Oh, my God. Richie says Tyreek is leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, laughing. Yeah, as the fire goes up behind him, it's that Bob's Burger gif. Yeah, that's what I'm imagining right now. Anyway, back to Emmanuel's question here. Poor Emmanuel getting overshadowed by Tyreek. His second question was, have you heard about the Perk Angle meme? Kurt Angle spoke about it a few times, most recently with Chris Van Vliet, and admitted that while he knows it's meant to be affectionate, and it's helped bring attention to his TNA run, he hates the nickname for how it frames his drug problems. Some fans have been trying to rename the meme to Peak Angle, though. Yeah, I've seen that whole thing. It was funny initially, but like if he doesn't like it because it bothers him, I'm glad the internet was respectful enough to be like, oh yeah, we won't call it Perk Angle anymore. I appreciate that. But instead of reframing it to Peak Angle, like the whole point of Perk Angle was that it rhymed with Kurt Angle. Like, that's why they did it. And do we have to really even rename it to anything just to call it Kurt Angle's TNA run? Like, not everything has to have an era or a label or something stupid. Like, that's just dumb. I saw people trying to take accountability for it. Not accountability, but I mean, they said sorry for calling it Perk Angle, but like, I saw people saying, oh yeah, instead of Perk, let's call it Peak. Let's get this movement started. Like, it's not a movement. Who cares? Like, that's cringy to me. But yes, I did follow that whole thing. I'm glad people stopped calling it that, though. If it bothers Kurt Angle, I'm glad he stopped. I'm glad he said something and they stopped calling him that from that time in TNA. His third question from Emmanuel. Have you ever heard about WWE allegedly considering Triple H beating John Cena at WrestleMania 22? There's some old dirt sheet reports from that time that said there was a double turn pitch for Triple H versus John Cena because WWE couldn't figure out how to deal with John's. Vince apparently vetoed the idea and instead tried to incorporate fans hating John Cena as part of his underdog character and storyline. If you remember WrestleMania 22, this is seemingly why JR introduces them, preparing backstage for the main event instead of a video package promo. Jim Ross emphasizes the Chicago crowd being traditionalists, quote unquote, who are more attached to Triple H than John Cena. Yeah, that was the entrance where CM Punk was a part of Cena's entrance on the car or whatever in Chicago. That's crazy. But anyway, no, I did not know that rumor existed that Triple H was allegedly supposed to beat Cena at Mania. And honestly, I've never heard that before, but it does make sense because they did turn Triple H babyface soon after anyway. For like the first time in I think 4 years because he had been a heel since 2002. So they turned him babyface in 2006 for the DX reunion actually. And he was a babyface up until like 2013. They hadn't turned him for a very long time until the Authority stuff, and that was after he was done wrestling consistently as like a full-time performer. But yeah, that would make sense if they wanted to do a double turn, and Vince said no. He got cold feet, probably the same way he got cold feet with heel Cena in 2011, 2012. That is interesting. I did not know that. I'm not sure if that's true, but if that's the rumor, I could believe it because Triple H turned babyface soon after anyway. And he did end up avenging that loss to Cena, Night of Champions 08. They had a rematch at Night of Champions 08 with the two of them as babyfaces, and Triple H won that night. Clean, actually, too. Average Grunt from Twitter. Obviously, Grunt's here on or he sent this in via YouTube. I put Twitter in my notes. He sent this in from YouTube. Let me adjust that here in my notes so it doesn't confuse me. Anyway, Grunt's here, obviously, and here's the answer to his question. Or his question was, first of all, he said, can WrestleMania moments, trademarked, he said, be tainted by the follow-up? For example, Big Show's IC title win at WrestleMania 28. Was his story of getting his first WrestleMania moment tainted by dropping the title so soon afterwards? Was it worth taking the title off of Cody during his hot run when it was just going to go back to him anyways, only for them to immediately drop it to Christian? Only for Cody to then immediately drop it to Christian. Yeah, the Mania moment thing, listen, there are such things as Mania moments. Not everything is a Mania moment. Like for Big Show, the whole reason, that was the reason why that feud existed. Like, just having Big Show challenge Cody for the IC title wasn't interesting enough, apparently, and it wasn't. And they really should not have done that match, because who gives a fuck? They just had no other plan for Big Show on that show. So they tried to make it more interesting by saying, well, Big Show's never had a Mania moment before. He's had the Akibono match, or the Akibono match, not Yokozuna, like I said that one time a couple of weeks ago. And he had won at Mania before, but he had never had a real standout moment, I guess. Does anyone honestly look at WrestleMania 28 as being a fucking Mania moment for Big Show when he won the IC title? Who cares? Even if he went on to have an amazing run, which he didn't. He lost it a month later. I think even, like, was it tainted by the follow-up? No. Could Mania moments be tainted by the follow-up? Is it possible? Yes. But usually it's not, because I think people, what they remember is Mania. But even that moment, people don't even really remember Big Show winning the IC title at WrestleMania. The match was okay at best. Cody was champion for a long time. He got the belt back a month later anyway. He should have just held on to it until he dropped it to Christian at Over the Limit, or whenever they were going to do it. Putting the belt on Big Show for a fucking month was not worth it. To interrupt Cody's run and to do what they did was a complete waste of time. So, I don't think the moment was tainted by the follow-up, but the moment itself was completely useless. Like, that moment really did not need to happen. Yeah, like, for example, like Kofi's run at WrestleMania, people don't really have fond memories of the Mania, of the WWE Championship run that he had. Was the Mania moment tainted by the follow-up? No, because people will always remember what happened at WrestleMania with Kofi Kingston. And honestly, it works conversely, too, the other way around, where if you get this great moment or like a terrible moment at Mania, can they make up for it at Backlash the next month? Very rarely. Like, for example, Rock beat Triple H in that amazing, not amazing, but like it was a great match at Backlash 2000. It was a lot better than the Mania 2000 main event. We talked about that in my Triple H ranking video. If you haven't already checked it out, please do so. I ranked all of Triple H's WrestleMania matches yesterday on WrestleRant ranks. People remember the WrestleMania 2000 main event because it sucked. People don't really remember the title win the next month with Rock beating Triple H in the main event of Backlash because it's not Mania. People remember Mania. They don't always remember Backlash. Mania is Mania. It's the biggest show of the year for a reason. So, can it be tainted by the follow-up? Yeah, it's possible. Typically, no, though, for better or for worse. The first moment could suck and the follow-up is better, but people will only ever really remember the big moments in Mania, whether they be good, bad, or just completely forgettable. Before we go to Christopher L's questions from Facebook, and he had some really good ones, I'll go back to the chat here briefly. Let's see. Daniel said, Ricochet's makes me laugh. Liv is definitely irritating with hers, which I guess is the point, so I'll give her credit for that. Grunt says, I adore Sandow. Damian Sandow was great. Daniel said, I'm surprised Perk Angle actually died down after he said it. I mean, people respect Kurt Angle so much that it makes sense. Usually the internet doesn't listen. They don't, you're right, but Kurt Angle is so well respected, I guess, that they actually did it, which was nice. Johnny said, do you care about the MVP and MJF storyline, the program that they have going? Yeah, I care. I'm not really sure where it's going. I am curious to see where it goes. I am invested. I'm interested. How do you feel about Mike Bailey taking the pin in the triple threat? At Revolution or Dynasty? It doesn't really matter. I mean, Mike Bailey will be fine. He doesn't have to go undefeated. It's fucking Mike Bailey. If he has a great showing and a great, performance and a great match, it's hardly going to matter. And he also said, who does better follow-ups, WWE or AEW? Honestly, right now, I think it's tied. AEW doesn't always have a great follow-up to shit. And WWE currently doesn't have a great follow-up to a lot of things. So, honestly, I think it's kind of tied. I would have said WWE, but right now, I think it's tied. Richie said, but Graham, Big Show cried when he won the title. Yeah, good point. He did. He had that big, meaningful moment that I'm sure meant so much to Big Show. I'm sure if you even ask Big Show, he's probably like, yeah, who gives a shit? Like, did I really need the IC title? No, he probably didn't even fucking care. Daniel said, I've cared about Big Show like twice in my life, if that. Yeah, I mean, in the time that I've been watching wrestling, he's been just there. I've never really given a fuck about the Big Show for the most part, ever. I remember Big Show turning heel over and over. Yeah, we all do. Richie said, my favorite Big Show moment was when Eddie Guerrero poisoned his food and gave him diarrhea. Oh, that's disgusting. I don't remember that. I remember Big Show getting tranquilized on SmackDown back in the day. I wasn't watching back then, but I've since seen it. JCW555 said, Backlash 99 and Backlash 2000 are what WrestleMania 15 and 2000 should have been. I agree. The Backlash to those two shows are way better than the Manias themselves. Those Manias, I don't like at all. Grunt said, I disagree with Backlash 2000 specifically. That Austin pop, when he came to help Rock, was insane and still gets put in the biggest pop competition. It is. I mean, I agree. Someone asked me last week, biggest Steve Austin pops, and I included that one because it's a great pop. I agree with you on that. The issue, though, is that do people really remember it for the Rock and Triple H match? No, they remember it for the Austin pop. People do not call Rock and Triple H one of the better matches of their time together. They actually had a better match at Judgment Day the very next month. But the Austin pop was great. I agree with you on that. Grunt said, damn, my attempt to troll failed. I got to learn from Tyreek. Tyreek is the ultimate troller for sure. Anyway, so Christopher L. sent in some questions here, some really good ones. And there's some lengthy ones, but he sent in some very good questions. We'll get through these, and then we'll go back to the chat before we wind down here in the next half hour or so. Christopher L. from Facebook. He says, what's up, Graham? Long time no talk. Hope everything is going well. Had a great weekend and off to a satisfying week so far. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate you saying that. Hope you have had the great, same strong start to the week. Thank you so much for saying that. But he says, is it me or does WrestleMania season, aside from some programs, feel cold? This is where the headline for the video comes from, by the way. He said, outside of Cena and Cody in the triple threat match, which even that feels a little forced and kind of makes Seth Rollins out to be an obsessed child, he says, there's nothing must-see on the card so far. Jay and Gunther's build has been a joke, with Jay looking worse every week in the ring, that embarrassing botchy performance against Austin Theory last week, and looking like an idiot every time Gunther outsmarts him. I'll get to Charlotte and Tiffany in a minute. That was another question of his. My question is, what has gone wrong with the WrestleMania build, and how can creative rescue it from getting worse? I'm not making excuses here, because I agree, it has gotten cold. I've enjoyed the road to WrestleMania overall. I typically do. If the card has potential, I am looking forward to the potential of the matches. I've said that before. Has the build gotten worse? It has. I mean, Elimination Chamber had peaked. The Cena heel turn, a lot of what they did at Chamber was very exciting. And then the follow-up fell off a fucking cliff. I mean, Raw was good there for a week or two post-Chamber. SmackDown has largely been a waste of time. The first SmackDown after Chamber was good. Since then, it's kind of fallen off a cliff. Couple things, though. One, Mania is later this year. Someone tried to talk to me about that on Twitter, and I agree. Mania is later, so they have more time to fill. But here's another question I have for you guys. Mania hasn't been this late ever. This is the latest WrestleMania has ever been. But AEW has done 3-month build to their pay-per-views before. They had no fucking pay-per-views, not counting like Grand Slam Australia was not a pay-per-view. The Dynasty Wrestle Kingdom show was not a pay-per-view for AEW. They had no shows from Wrestle Kingdom through Revolution. Or not Wrestle Kingdom, World's End. They had no pay-per-views from World's End through Revolution. Now, the main event for Revolution sucked, but the build for the pay-per-view was pretty good. How is it they had 3 months to build that show, and WWE has 7 weeks between Chamber, and even Chamber was later this year. They had 7 weeks between Chamber and WrestleMania, and they can't put together, like, none of the stories are even all that interesting. I think the matches themselves are good. Jay and Gunther make sense. The build has been completely fucking lazy, having them work with 8-Town Down Under and Alpha Academy. Who gives a shit? Tiffany and Charlotte haven't really clicked as characters so far. I'm sure the match will be great. And a lot of Charlotte's WrestleMania builds have been awful. The Ronda Rousey build a couple of years ago sucked. Charlotte's build to Mania 2 years ago with Rhea Ripley sucked. I mean, a lot of Charlotte's Mania builds suck before she goes in and has a great match. So, I mean, even Sasha and Bianca, the build of their match was lazy as fuck a few years ago. So it's not even like it's exclusive to this year. But like Tiffany and Charlotte has really been lacking. The Triple Threat women's build has just been lazy. I mean, that is just terrible television. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. It feels like AI is booking these shows, like I said earlier. But another thing is, I don't know if they're just phoning it in for the international crowds. Like, the crowds have been lively, but they're not really giving it their full effort. We're not getting better promos. It's a lot of just back and forth. Gunther attacks Jay, Jay attacks Gunther. That's basic-ass booking. Where are the stories? Where are the vignettes? Where are the interesting storylines? Like, Drew and Damian will be a good match. They're going off of history from a year ago. Who cares? Who gives a shit? They're trying to make you care, and I like that, but it's basic-ass booking. And Triple H does well with basic-ass booking, but he has to do better. Like, we need actual strong booking with real, meaningful promos, and we were getting that for a while. Even Cody and Cena are doing good work, but not great work. Why isn't that Cody and Cena haven't gone head-to-head yet on the mic? Cena's walked away like a fucking pussy the last 2 weeks. And you could be saying to yourself, well, they have a couple weeks to go till Mania. They have all this time to kill. Brother, Cena's only advertised for next week's Raw, and that's it. Cena's not advertised for any other shows beyond next week's Raw. What the fuck? If they only get, like, are we only getting one back and forth on the mic between those two? They're advertising it again as face-to-face with Cody and Cena. They did that the first 2 times. Like, that's so fucking lazy. I'm sorry. And I tend to give WWE and Triple H a lot of credit and defend X, Y, and Z. AEW too. I try to look on the positive side. But a lot of what we're getting is just fucking lazy. The mid-card belts, the build to those matches is lazy. They're not interesting stories. For the US title or the IC title, the tag titles are fucking non-existent on both shows. Or specifically on Raw. SmackDown, it's better. The women's tag titles are an afterthought. The women's mid-card belts are kind of an afterthought. What are we doing here? Like, just figure this shit out. Like, multi-match mania is a very real thing. That, to me, is why this road to WrestleMania feels cold. Speaking of Charlotte and Tiffany, his second question was, what in the absolute hell is going on to the absolutely atrocious build-up to Charlotte and Tiffany? Charlotte has had the upper hand every time she's had a one-on-one segment with her. Charlotte has done not one thing to put her over or make Tiffany feel like a star or the champion of the division. My problem with this disaster is that Tiffany was put in the position that she is in way too soon instead of giving her seasoning and having her win big matches to make her stance believable. The main problem, though, is that she doesn't feel like a great babyface. She has the face and the attitude of a snobby, abrasive heel, and the fact they turned her so fast was the biggest blow to her character. In all honesty, they put the match out there because it will be a very athletic match, not because it has a good story to it. Why do you feel the feud is dying a death, and do you agree with my points on why Tiffany is struggling in her role? I do agree to an extent. Tiffany is absolutely struggling as a babyface so far. I think why she works as a babyface is because she's organically over. And I will say, the alternative, this is better than the alternative of them bringing back Charlotte as a babyface and attempting to shove it down our throats that Charlotte is the face and Tiffany is the heel. That definitely would not have worked. So I like that they reversed the roles. That is the right dynamic for the match. The problem is Tiffany hasn't really evolved her character at all. I agree with that. She was sympathetic during the Nia Jax cash-in stuff. I thought that was good. But then she went right back to being a bitch as soon as she cashed in the title successfully. So it was like, is she embracing the audience or is she not? There wasn't really an organic turn there. The crowd already likes her, which is good. And Charlotte, has gotten the better of her has gotten the better of Tiffany at every single turn, including on promos. Tiffany still has to improve on the promo front. She feels very robotic as far as like, I have to read what's scripted for me. She makes the most of it. And Charlotte's promos are also just typically terrible. That also does not help. So at least they're getting promo time, though. Like a lot of these other matches aren't really getting promo time or it's basic-ass shit. The story makes sense, and I don't think the build has been awful. It just largely hasn't been anything great. It's been struggling, it's been weak, but it hasn't been terrible. I could point to a million other matches in Mania history that had far worse build than this one. It makes sense, the build's been basic, but we need more. Like even the brawl they had a week or two ago, the crowd was hot for it, I think in Spain, Bologna or Barcelona, wherever they were in Spain a couple of weeks ago. Bologna was Italy. The crowd was into it, but the brawl itself sucked. Like Tiffany did a move off the top rope and she completely missed Charlotte, I think, or the roles were reversed there. I don't know. The match still needs seasoning, and again, thankfully, Mania is far enough away they could still improve it. I'm just not sure how. And they just don't click well as characters because they're kind of almost too similar in a way. Charlotte's promos are not good. Tiffany's promos are better. But even she kind of feels scripted and robotic, and she's kind of been here for not that long. She was pushed a little quickly. I will agree with you on that. I think she deserves this match at Mania, but hopefully they can be more organic. I think you can fix the feud by getting them more personal. Like they were talking shit each other about their looks on Twitter. As low as that seems, that's what people want to see. They want to see that shit talk on TV. Not this shit where Charlotte talks over her and kind of degrades her cash-in, which a lot of other people have done, by the way. And she earned it by winning Money in the Bank. Like, she says that if Charlotte doesn't walk right back in and earn a fucking title shot every single time she returns. I mean, stop. They need to fix the feud by just getting more personal. Like, you want to talk about, like, my looks? Let's talk about, you getting a nose job or something. I don't know. Like, you just talk about shit like that. I feel like that would be far more interesting than what we're getting right now. His next question, are people going way overboard with the reactions involving Moxley and the spiked bat? I feel like people just need to shut up and act like it's not that, and not act like it's a big deal that they are making it out to be. I mean, it is kind of a big deal because it was a pretty stupid spot, and it was a pretty gross spot, too. I don't think that people need to shut up. I wouldn't go quite that far, Christopher. I think that's a little aggressive. I mean, people are already over it. I mean, that's how the internet works. I mean, people see shit, they complain, they move on. I mean, I understand why people would complain. It was a pretty stupid thing to do. It was a pretty fucking dumb spot. It added nothing to the match at all. And Moxley's just going to get himself killed doing that shit. Darby, too. It's just dumb. It's dumb shit. I can see why Punk got pissed at some of the stuff they were doing because it makes no fucking sense. Edge approving that, and Tony Khan approving it is also very dumb to me. They're also part of the problem. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not saying AEW should die because of it. That's all I'll say on that. His next question, what are your thoughts on Jade Cargill telling Shayna Baszler that she needs to learn how to wrestle better? I find it hilarious, and she has very little to no in-ring talent, and it's all looks. I'm not going to say Jade has no talent. I feel like that's not true, and that's not fair. But Jade telling Shayna that she can't work, if that is true, is indeed ironic considering her own inexperience. That is funny. I saw that whole story. The fact that it got drudged up now is weird. Kind of a waste. I don't know why it's being talked about now, but hopefully things smooth over and they can kind of work their shit out. But Jade should probably get an attitude adjustment if that's how she actually feels. And Christopher's last question here. What cities would you like to see host WrestleMania and Royal Rumble? For WrestleMania, I think the Crimson Title Stadium, Bryant-Denny Stadium, would be a nice venue, as it holds up to 90,000 fans. Busch Stadium in St. Louis would all be a cool atmosphere, as St. Louis is an underrated wrestling city. Yankee Stadium would also be a cool location for WrestleMania or even SummerSlam. For Royal Rumble, Skydome would be good. Levi's Stadium in San Francisco would be great, as it looked awesome at Mania 31. Those are my picks. What about you? I'm not familiar with most of those arenas. Yankee Stadium I'm aware of. I don't think I've been to Yankee Stadium. I've always wanted a wrestling show either at Gillette or the Red Sox Stadium. Red Sox Stadium is probably too old and small to hold a wrestling event, but Gillette Stadium I'm surprised they haven't done yet. And if they have, not in recent memory. I thought they would do that for SummerSlam. I would prefer Gillette over fucking MetLife. MetLife is a dump. The area surrounding it is a dump. I'm not looking forward to being in that area again. It's a shithole over there. Sorry for anyone from New Jersey. That's just how I feel. Gillette would be my pick. It's just more of a weather thing. I feel like they're going to go to warmer climates for these Manias and Rumbles and SummerSlams. You know, it's got to make sense timing-wise. St. Louis would be cool. They're going to St. Louis for Backlash, but they're not running like a big stadium for that show, and nor should they, I don't think. But or where were they for Backlash last year? Was that a stadium? That was just an arena, right, in Lyon, France? Anyway, Levi's would be cool. I love Mania 31. Love the look of that show. I've been to San Francisco, but not Levi's, so that would be cool to go there for a SummerSlam or a Rumble. Skydome would be cool for a Rumble. That's a question I have for you guys in the chat. I'll look back in the chat in a second, but like, what stadiums or venues would you like to see WWE run? Selfishly, for me, it's Gillette because it's close. I love the area. I think it's really nice. I've been to Gillette for football games and stuff like that, high school football games. I've been to that area a million times. RJ lives right around there. Love Gillette, so Gillette would be my pick. Yeah, I mean, Met Stadium would be cool. Citi Field I like too. I don't love like the New York atmosphere, but like it's easy enough to get to, and I think Citi Field's a really nice stadium. I've been to a wrestling show there once, actually. There was a Legends of Wrestling show there like a decade ago. I met Lita that day, Brian Myers, a.k.a. Kurt Hawkins. Goldberg was there. That was a really fun show, really fun time. I don't know if they did any other ones after that, but it was a good time. So yeah, Citi Field and Gillette Stadium. Like overall in the rest of the country, I'm not really sure. I want to see something in that fucking dome thing in Vegas. I know they're going to be in Vegas for Mania next month, but the ball, like where they use the whole arena and you could put shit on the ceiling, that's where I want to see them do a show. Let's go back to the chat here. Let's see. I'm going to rewind just a little bit here in the chat. GCW555 said earlier, Big Show should have been an Andre the Giant type attraction, but WWE just overexposed him and turned him over more than a fish on a grill. That's a great expression. Yeah, they turned him way too many times. Daniel said Eddie versus Brock, or Big Show rather, was actually one of the current feuds happening when I first started watching. Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I started watching years later, so I missed that. Richie said, creative needs The Rock to pivot plans for WrestleMania, let's be honest. I mean, they already pivoted with the Rock thing once. You cannot convince me that the Cena heel turn was not a pivot. I'm sorry. This whole Cena heel turn thing feels like a complete pivot to me. The fact that The Rock showed up for 2 weeks, they did the turn with Cena, and The Rock has not shown up or been acknowledged since, how the fuck is that not a pivot? And probably not one for the better. Why not just turn Cena heel without aligning with The Rock? You know what I mean? The Rock's not even around, so what the fuck? Johnny said WWE had too many weeks between Chamber and Mania. Yeah, I guess, but here's the thing. There's been years where there was no B pay-per-view to build towards. What about the years when it was just Rumble and WrestleMania? People weren't complaining then. It's not yeah, there's too many weeks between Chamber and Mania, I agree, but you can make these shows mean more. The shows are fine. They're not terrible, but like they should at least be good or very good or feel more meaningful. They don't feel meaningful at all. The last couple of weeks have not felt meaningful at all. I liked the MSG show 2 weeks ago. I liked that one. That was probably the last real show they did that I thought was like above average. Every show should feel bigger than it does right now. And not feeling like they phoned it in. Daniel said people saying it was too early to crap on the build, but 25 days left. What's the excuse? Yeah, that I agree with. When people were shitting out it a month ago, it was definitely too soon. Oh, it's the week after Rumble. Doesn't feel like Mania season. Well, no shit. Because it's fucking early February. But now I agree. Like now there's no excuse. to me. I mean, there are excuses like, oh, it's too late, or oh, they're international right now. They're overseas. Come on. They could be doing better than what they are right now. The shows don't even have to be amazing. The storylines at least should be more interesting. Most of them just aren't. Grunt said, hot or cold, crowds cheering and screaming for great matches and big moments is better than them chanting stuff like this is awesome, holy shit, and fight forever. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't really, as long as the crowd makes noise, I'd rather have them chanting this is awesome, holy shit, and fight forever than fucking what or saying nothing. So either one is fine. But if I had to pick, yeah, I guess crowds going nuts for matches as opposed to saying the same 3 chants is probably better. I would agree with that. Noob said, never forget about Charlotte's build to Mania 34. That was also a bust. Yeah, her and Asuka, I remember nothing about that build at all. Nothing. Yeah, I agree, Richie. WWE 2K Universe ass mode, or WWE 2K Universe mode ass booking. I agree. JCW said, I'm starting to believe like these international shows are crutches because the crowds are almost guaranteed to be hot. That is part of it. I absolutely agree. Daniel said Tiffany seems miscast as a babyface. She does, but she can be a good babyface if they gave her better material or she felt more like organic. Because she's over enough to be a babyface. They just have to make it work. Johnny said, imagine we get Bianca defending her title shot against Rhea with Io as referee on the Raw after this upcoming. That would be fucking terrible. I hope not. That is so lazy. I hope not. Nick said, go off, King, go off. This is exactly how I felt about Tiff and Charlotte. Yeah, that shit's just, I'm looking forward to the match. I think it'll be a great match. I'm glad they're doing the match. But it feels lazy. Like, I don't know. The promo I thought was good last week, but it should feel better. It should feel bigger. You could say that for most of the card at WrestleMania this year. Richie said, no wonder why Brock shot down Mox's ideas for Mania. Exactly. Imagine that. Mox probably wanted to do some dumbass shit, and Brock's like, no, I don't disagree. He was probably wanted to do some dumbass nonsense. That makes no fucking sense. Daniel said, were you surprised to see Liv beat Jade? I was. That's Jade's first loss, a singles loss since she left AEW. She lost twice one-on-one in AEW, and that was it. She has suffered 3 singles losses in 5 years. 2 to Chris Statlander in 2023, and now 1 to Liv Morgan. Won't kill Jade, but that did surprise me. Grunt said Toronto for the Rumble. Or WrestleMania. I mean, I wouldn't complain. I haven't been in Toronto in a minute, so that would be nice. Daniel said, watch Amalgam about what? Me shitting on New Jersey? Sorry, Daniel. If you're from New Jersey, Daniel, I apologize, but it is a shithole. I'm sorry. Richie said, Yukon Huskies Stadium for WrestleMania. Hey, it's nice and close in Connecticut. I won't complain. Yeah, Richie agrees with me. He said, nah, bro, Jersey is ass. I stand on business. Johnny said, are you going to buy Soraya's book? Yeah, probably. You know what I realized, though? I have so many physical books that I want to read, and I love reading. I still have Becky's book I have yet to finish. The problem with me, though, I feel like I'm always in front of my laptop. I feel like it would be easier for me to read a book if it was on my laptop, like in Kindle version. So if I buy Soraya's book, I'm probably just going to buy the Kindle version. Because I feel like if I'm always on my laptop, if I'm on the go or elsewhere, I can just read it on my laptop as opposed to bringing the book with me. I feel like that just makes more sense. So I probably will buy Soraya's book, but I think I want to buy it over a Kindle version. Because one, the physical books just take up too much space, and I just don't have the space to continue to buy books that I won't have a chance to read anytime soon. But I just feel like buying the digital version would make more sense. So I probably will buy it at some point. And then do a book review here on the channel if you guys are interested. Daniel said, though I will admit MetLife is mid, especially considering when it was built. Yeah, the area around MetLife is awful. I've said this a million times, but we had the worst experience leaving MetLife of any show I've ever been to. Any event I've ever been to, wrestling or otherwise, was leaving Mania 35. And Alexis can attest to that. We still have PTSD from that in 2019. Johnny said WrestleMania for Wembley Stadium. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Or SummerSlam. Obviously, they did SummerSlam there in 92, but not since. But yeah, that would be cool. Daniel said, which do you love more, Gillette or Ziggler? Great question. I love Ziggler more than Gillette. Johnny said, maybe All-In season will be better. All-In season for AEW? Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, I did say ass mode by accident. Daniel said, damn, I didn't think about that. Brock has been vindicated. Yeah, I think it was Dylan who said that to me recently. Someone said that about the Moxley thing, and I said, yeah, I agree. I completely agreed. They were calling Brock lazy. No, he doesn't want a fucking barbed wire bat in his back because that's just stupid. They could have made the Brock Ambrose match a bigger attraction to Mania 32. That I agree with. Like, that match should have been more hardcore than it was. It wasn't really hardcore at all. But to be hardcore, you don't really need to do, you don't really need a fucking barbed wire bat in your back. Let's put it that way. Alexis said, this is our daily reminder that Tyreek is probably watching, giggling and kicking his legs like a schoolgirl because he keeps trolling us. I agree. That motherfucker's in the shadows right now, and he will not explain himself. He is here. He is absolutely here. He ain't GTG my ass. Yeah, fuck that. He is absolutely here. He just doesn't want to explain himself. We will get an explanation for Ceni's heel turn that makes more sense before we get an explanation for Love Ziggler. Alexis said, do an audiobook. I'm almost done with my new Hunger Games book. I thought about that. I've done audiobooks before. I don't want to do an audiobook, though. That's the problem. I do and I don't. I think I would like I've done audiobooks. I did an audiobook for Rhonda's book because I had a free one, and I did one for Hardcore Holly's book last year. Both were very good. And you can also hear the person do the audiobook. It would honestly be ideal because I listen to podcasts and watch videos and shit way more than I read. But I want to be able to read the book, though. That's kind of the problem. I would do an audiobook, but I kind of want to be able to read it and also own it. The audiobooks, you can, I don't know, you kind of have to go back and you can't really own it and you have to rewind and shit. And sometimes I'm not listening and I want to be able to read the book. So I would probably do a Kindle version of these books, including Soraya's. Johnny said Soraya's been doing more interviews for her book than building up AEW pay-per-views. Hopefully Tony Khan took notes. Yeah, she's been making the rounds with her media tour right now, talking about her book. And Johnny said Brock versus CM Punk was a classic hardcore match. That was a great match. Hardcore match, I don't know if it was fucking hardcore, but it was a really good no DQ match. I agree with that. That was from SummerSlam 2013, one of my favorite matches. And Alexa said, I own mine on Spotify. I mean, yeah, you own it. I understand that. But I'm saying that I would prefer reading, but sometimes reading the physical book isn't always possible or feasible. So I feel like it's the best of both worlds to not always rely on the audiobook. I like the reading part. I like physically reading it, but sometimes I can't always have the book in my hand. So I feel like getting the, text version would be easier, at least in my opinion, for me anyway. And Johnny said, who are women wrestlers that you would like to see in Anarchy or Stampede? There's no story that makes sense, so none. I mean, if the women's match makes sense to be an Anarchy or a Stampede, then yes. But the Anarchy shit is terrible. I don't like it. I know you like it, Johnny. Some other people like it. I think it's garbage. The Stampede match was fun 5 years ago. I wouldn't do another one. I would. So if the match made sense, then sure. I would rather see a women's blood and guts match before I would see a women's Anarchy or Stampede. Probably Tony Storm, though. I feel like she would make the most of it, make it fun. And Johnny also said, I said timers to cut down on my screen time. Interesting. And then Grunt also said, seeing either the Rumble or Mania or both at the Sky Dome would be the last thing to check off my WWE checklist. After that, I can move on happy. Yeah, hopefully at some point they're back at the Sky Dome for either one of those shows. I'm sure they would. They went to Toronto so many fucking times. They were in Canada for Survivor Series last year, Money in the Bank last year, Elimination Chamber this year, Elimination Chamber 2 years ago. They've been to Canada a lot lately. They've probably been to Canada more in the last 2 years than they did for 10, 15 years combined for pay-per-views. So, anyway, I feel like, that would be fun. And hopefully one of the shows I can go to. I've been to Toronto before, but not in a very long time, so that would be fun. Last few questions here before we wrap up. At Iwagu91, your thoughts on Jada Parker. I like Jada Parker. I think she's very good. She's improved in the last year. She has that charisma about her. She's got a great look, too. She's got that connection with the crowd. She's got to put the pieces kind of more in place as far as her in-ring work is concerned and her promos and shit. But for someone that's fairly new to the business, she's coming along very well. And she may not win the women's title necessarily, but as the North American champion, I feel like she's the perfect fit for that title, in my opinion. So, yeah, I like Jada Parker a lot. I feel like she has a lot of potential at some point when she hits the main roster down the road. Next question from him. Do you see the malevolent jerk face, MJF, that's just what he calls him, becoming AEW World Champion again this year? I don't. Could he? Yes. I don't think Swerve gets the belt back. I don't. At least not yet. I hope. I don't think he will. I think Ospreay wins the belt at some point, or Darby. MJF would then have to beat one of those guys. I could see him feuding with Swerve over the belt. We haven't seen that, but we've seen MJF and Darby before. They could revisit it. But I feel like that would make more sense if MJF was champion. So, could he win the belt back this year? Yes. Do I think he will? No. And your third question, do you think that John Cena will win his final world title at WrestleMania? Every week that goes by, I'm less convinced that he's winning at Mania, but I just feel like Cody winning at WrestleMania is so fucking bad. Even if they pair him with Drew after Mania, like I was thinking, who could they pair Cody with after Mania? Drew's a good one. Drew's probably beating Damian at Mania, and he should. He should beat Damian at WrestleMania. You could do Drew and Cody after Mania. But would they really have Cody lose it at Backlash? Probably not. And I think Orton probably feuds with Cena, hopefully. You could do Orton and Cody at some point. They're not turning Orton before he gets to St. Louis. That would be stupid. That would just be dumb. I honestly feel like you run the risk of Cody getting booed if he's champion past WrestleMania. You reach the 1 year mark and people start to kind of turn on you. If you're a babyface champion, people will start to turn on you. And that's what we're at now, or going to get at with Cody. I think he's had a great run. I'm happy he's been champion for this long. If he lost it to Kevin Owens at some point and then got it back, I would have been happy, but that didn't happen. I really do think he should lose or win at he really should lose at WrestleMania. I would have been happy with him winning if he faced babyface John Cena, but you don't turn John Cena heel, do it half-assed, barely explain it, not explain it fully anyway, and then have him fucking lose. To what? Lose it or win it at Backlash? Dumb. Win it at SummerSlam? Stupid. I do think Cena wins his final world title this year. I really do think he breaks the record. Does he win it in his last match as a babyface? Yeah, but then the problem is if he loses at Mania, it's almost impossible to keep him heel after that. And then to turn him back babyface at this point would just be stupid. So he's got to win. I think he really does have to win. If he doesn't win, that to me is a massive mistake. Cody gains nothing currently from beating Cena. If he loses to Cena and then beats him later on, then yes, he gains something. Literally and figuratively, if he gets the belt back. Even if he loses it right back to Cody, that's fine at some point down the road. Cena, I think, should win at WrestleMania. I mean, how do you not do, at Backlash in St. Louis, how do you not do Cena and Orton as the main event? You could do that match, Cena not being champion, but then it won't, that's going to main event? I don't think so. I feel like, especially if Cody's still champion, and Cody's not defending, or Cody's in the mid-card, that's just stupid. So I think Cena's got to win. So I'm going to say yes, but I am getting less convinced by the week that Cena's winning at WrestleMania. I hate to say it. Last couple things here before we wind down. Daniel said Toronto got Money in the Bank and Survivor Series in the same year. No, they got Money in the Bank last year. Survivor Series, they were in Canada. They weren't in Toronto. I think they were in, I don't remember. Vancouver, I think. Vancouver for Survivor Series. Toronto got Money in the Bank and Elimination Chamber, but not in the same calendar year. They were in Toronto last July and then again in February in two different venues, I believe. Richie said, if you had to book a WrestleMania match with Marvel or Star Wars characters, who would you put on night 1 / night 2, and who would you open and close each day with? That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. Iron Man and Luke Skywalker, I feel like makes a lot of sense. That's the main event of night 2 for sure. Darth Maul could do some damage. Darth Maul and fucking, I don't know. I mean, you got to do the Emperor or Darth Vader and Thanos, right? Darth Vader and Thanos are two of the greatest villains of all time. Maybe you mix it up. Maybe you do Darth Vader versus Iron Man and Thanos versus Luke Skywalker. I feel like those builds are too similar there. Or do a tag team match like we got on night 1 last year at WrestleMania. That would be possible. I feel like that's a great question for Alexis. I'm going to leave that question to Alexis. If she's still here in the chat, maybe she can answer that before we wind down. Because I'm not as creative as she is when it comes to that sort of stuff. Grunt said 1,000% Vince was starving us for years. Yeah, Vince was not a fan, I guess, of going over to Canada unless they went to Montreal and did a Montreal screw job. That was about it. Johnny said, hopefully Gunther retires Goldberg later this year. I think he will. If it's not Gunther, then it's Braun Breaker. And hopefully Goldberg loses in his last match. He should not be fucking beating Braun or Gunther in his last match. That would just be dumb. Johnny said, is Roman Reigns the best double champion you've ever seen? I mean, I guess. I mean, he can't be because he barely was around. I mean, it was technically one title. He wasn't defending both belts. The answer is no. One of the best double champions I've seen personally was, this is such an obscure reference, Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal, when he was the Ring of Honor television champion and the Ring of Honor world champion, I feel like companies have tried to do that since, and they just haven't, it hasn't worked. Like AEW's had a lot of double champions, WWE, even NXT now with Stephanie Vecchia, which just started. But I feel like Jay Lethal, he was double champion for like a good 5 or 6 months, at least 4 to 5 months, defending both belts on like consecutive Ring of Honor shows and pay-per-views. I love that. I thought that was really cool. Rollins had potential, but he dropped the U.S. title too quickly, right back to Cena in 2015. Becky had a potential, but she dropped the SmackDown Women's title too quickly in 2019. People being like a double, I don't know, like Roman Reigns was kind of like the same guy. Oh, I like Cody and Darth Maul, though, because Richie did the Cody, Obi-Wan Kenobi thing from Rebels. I feel like that would be cool. Alexis said Darth Maul would hate Cody, and she also said Grievous versus Obi-Wan in the Hell in a Cell match. That's a good one. Take my money. I mean, literally, like Richie said, the best double champion I've ever seen is Stephanie Vecchia. Love Stephanie's great. That I've literally ever seen, probably Stephanie. Stephanie definitely holds the 2 titles well. Johnny said Darby has to defeat MJF with a headlock takeover. Yeah, to finish the story, that would make sense. He also said Cena versus Punk for the title can be the main event for Backlash. No, the main event for that show really should be Orton and Cena. Orton's got to be in the main event. They're in fucking St. Louis. And also, at that point, you just save that match for either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. You don't do that at Backlash. And Punk's probably losing. If Cena wins the belt at WrestleMania, Punk ain't fucking winning. That makes it too obvious. You know Orton's not winning, but at least Orton's in his hometown. Johnny said Khan from Star Trek versus Darth Vader from Star Tours. Yeah, I haven't seen Star Trek, so I don't get the reference, but he said it would be a good match. Alexis also said Anakin versus Ahsoka and a loser leaves the Galaxy match, and Luke Skywalker versus Captain America. I feel like the promos would be boring, though. It's kind of the problem. But that match could work, though. All right, so we're going to wind down here, guys. Got to get going here in a moment. But thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate it. Nearing in on 2 hours here on the stream. I believe, yeah, just about 2 hours. A little bit less than usual, but I feel like 2 hours is the sweet spot. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can always do so by tweeting me onto the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Be sure to find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post that I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So be sure to like this video. Like I said, guys, I would appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified every single time we upload a new video and every single time we're live, which the next time should be on Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. Myself and Mr. Marceau. TBA on the time, TBD. Could be early Thursday morning, Thursday around noon, 11 a.m., we'll see. Talking all the latest in the world of wrestling. We're going to dive into more deeper on the road to WrestleMania. If it has been cold, underwhelming, what WWE can do to fix it, if there's any more news, all that sort of stuff. So be sure to stay tuned to WrestleRant Radio this coming Thursday here on YouTube and all the usual podcast platforms. And I think that's about it. Thanks to those who tuned in today and to the 2K25 test run gameplay over the weekend. I should be live with my 2K25 GM mode video, hopefully if it doesn't crash, next week here on the channel, probably next Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. But even before then, and after Thursday, might be live Friday or Saturday as they put on my community tab here on the channel. Might be live for a Mania 26 watch-along this weekend. Either Mania 26 or Mania 24, either one, I feel like would be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that at some point coming up in the next couple days. So I think that does everything. I think that does it here for everything on the stream. Be sure to check out the t-shirt store as well, ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. Buy a shirt, and hopefully at some point we can design a Love Ziggler shirt and show Tyreek who's boss. Like Richie said, at Tyreek Cunningham, shame on you, sir, for not showing up again as we wind down. He's going to show up as the fucking credits roll here on the video, I promise you. I wouldn't be surprised. Grunt, thank you for the pray emoji. I appreciate you joining us. Grunt, Alexis, Richie, Johnny, Daniel, everyone that's been in the chat all afternoon long. I appreciate you. I acknowledge you. Have an awesome one, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. I'll catch your ass down the road.